Okay, we are back. Welcome back to Bold Lies. We've had a little break, but we are back in the chair, and I am delighted to come back with two absolute clothing legends. Well, forget clothing, absolute legends of the reseller game, the luxury pickers. So while we wait for some people to join, do you guys want to do a bit of an intro for the people who might not have ever heard of you? I'm sure most people who come in tonight have, but for the people who haven't, do you want to kind of give a little bit of a rundown as to what you guys do and who you are?
Do you want me to do this?
Do it. You do that. You know you're good.
So I don't know. How do we describe us? So we started our reselling journey in brick and mortar. So all we ever knew was brick and mortar, and it is only the last year that we've gone full online into marketplaces and the reselling community, if you will. Prior to that, we were very much in the resale fashion industry, but within stores, which is very, very different to how it is now. And we specialize in high-end luxury brands. That doesn't mean to say we don't sell other, obviously, fashion items to fund such, stock quests.
Yeah.
However, our speciality, our mastermind subject is luxury goods.
That's a good way to put it.
And how long have you guys been into I know when I say into the fashion scene as such, obviously you guys have a vast array of knowledge, and hopefully we'll touch on some of that later. But how long have you guys been interested in fashion?
Since I was in the birth canal.
Yeah, same. Like always been. Even like for me, for sure. When I was a lot younger, I had an older brother who was always into fashion, like crazy into fashion. And like anything, if your older brother or sister's into games, or if they're into, I don't know, motorbike or whatever it might be, you just kind of pick up on that, And I think I got it predominantly from him. And then from the early age, like he would get me something, or he would, it was just one of those things you'd pick up from a family member. And I think I just never stopped from that age on. You? I
actually had it. I was joking previously. I didn't actually get a fashion bug, if you will, until I started working in the industry. I didn't buy my first luxury handbag until I was 21, which wasn't that long ago. Just
a couple of years ago.
But I did fine art. I wanted to be an artist. That's all I ever wanted to do. I did a fine art degree, and that's all I actually ever cared about is being a struggling artist. Until I had to pay some bills, and then it went the other way. But to me, that's why I think the link and the passion for fashion.
I hate that.
But you hate it, but it flows.
It's art to me. I look at it from a design point, from craftsmanship, and from the actual grassroots of fashion, as opposed to just it's a garment, we're going to sell it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's say hello to a few people. If you guys have any questions for the pickers, or you don't mind if I call you the pickers, do you?
It's not at all.
Okay, cool. You guys have any questions for the pickers or myself, drop them in the chat and we'll try and get through and answer them. So first in, George is in. Mr. Consistent Live, I call George, because he's always consistently going live most days. If you aren't subscribed to George, please do, because he is only a few subscribers away now from the 1,000. So hopefully let's try and get him that during this live. So if you're not a subscriber, leave this for a second, go and subscribe to George and then come back, because we need to get him to that 1,000 here.
He makes amazing videos too. I will say that. We watch all his videos. Go watch.
Yeah, and I was going to say, George has been to every single reseller meetup in the last couple of weeks. So if you want to know anything about any of the platforms, go and watch his videos, because he's covered them all, I think. A fan favourite of us, and also we are of her as well, Michelle. Also has a YouTube channel, so make sure you go and subscribe to Michelle. And she's been bugging me and probably bugging you guys for ages to make this happen. And we were speaking before we came on, and first time I met you guys in the flesh was last Thursday, wasn't it? Last Thursday at the Evo. And it was great. And like I was saying to you guys before, it was really nice to meet you in person. And what I will confirm to everyone is the luxury pickers are exactly the same in person as they are on video. And I love that about you guys. That when I met you, it felt like I've known you for years from watching your videos and also from the interactions we've had on Instagram. So it's really good to actually come and meet you guys. But yeah, she's been pushing for this one to happen for a while. So I'm glad it finally is. Hi, Benji. Hope you're good, mate. Alison's in. Oh, we got a question already from Shell. Question. Why have I never seen your artwork, Bethany? Good point. Why have you never showcased the artwork?
I don't have time to do it anymore. I don't have time to do anything like that anymore. It's like one of those things that you sort of, you know, like if you, I don't know, if someone has a degree, I guarantee like at the moment in today's society, like 70% of people's degrees aren't used. And I think one of those things with art is that if you're not practicing it, it just sort of like, you never forget how to do it or you never not do it, but it's like on the back burner and I never really think about it. I still paint and things like that, but I don't think anyone's particularly interested. I think that's like one of those things, isn't it, with an artist that no one actually cares about it.
Well, Michelle will buy your painting by the sounds of it. So
yeah, that's our Christmas present. There you go.
Yeah, that's it sorted. But she has a serious question. We'll come to it in a minute. So yeah, Simon's in as well. Good to see you, Simon. Mate. Yeah, Michelle says on a serious question. So she has some serious questions from time to time. Have you ever dabbled in reselling side of art?
We do it every day. Fashion is art.
There you go. That's the answer.
Couture fashion, a £25,000 gown from Alexander McQueen, runway 2009, is as art as it comes. Every single thing that we sell is art.
Do you know what? I would also say, like nowadays, like most people who are in the kind of, especially the high-end space regards designers or kind of creative directors, they've usually been through not only fashion, but some art in their life as regards their degrees, their qualifications. And in actual fact, in some cases, some of the kind of more higher up fashion houses, for example, Dior recently, they did a collaboration with a chap who makes sculptures. So art and like fashion have always been kind of one and the same in many ways. And you'll find, for example, Pharrell Williams, the guy from Neptunes, or everyone knows Pharrell Williams, right? He's currently the creative director for Louis Vuitton. And he's technically a musician by trade. That's but that does not take anything away from what he does, fashion wise. But I'm saying that the art as a medium, without sounding too kind of cliche and everything's lovely, art, fashion, music has always been a whole big melting pot.
I love the way Bethany pronounced that clothing item like it's how I would order dessert in a restaurant. It just like slips straight off the tongue and it's just so natural. And this is what I'm saying about your knowledge. You guys just know so much. It blows my mind, and we'll get onto the knowledge later because I've got a few questions about how you have learned that knowledge and how you keep on top of it as well. Hi, Chris. Chris is in. Jess is in. Hope you're good, Jess. Ian's in. I'm gonna try and go through quickly. We do have some questions. So Craig's in with a question to luxury pickers. Would you ever go back to brick and mortar?
Do you know, my brain says like no, but as you were going to open your mouth, I was like, you know what, I would say never say never.
I would do it differently. I think the problem with how we did it is we went straight into it, like no money, no connections, nothing. It was it was just like renting a building and seeing what was going to happen. It was stupid, to say the least. In terms of how we should have done it on reflection. Reflections are a wonderful thing. I would consider, I've said it to Austin many times, I would consider pop-ups, etc. But our plans, I think, ultimately would technically go back to brick and mortar, but in a very different way.
I don't think, like, if the question is, would we go back to a shop?
On a high street,
no way in the world. Like, even without looking at each other, like, that's the answer to the question. But I think nowadays, without getting into the whole online retail and, kind of high street and stuff, like, I don't necessarily think it's dead, but I think there's a lot of things that go into that. And I think, like Bethany said, whether it's pop-ups, whether it's collaborations with other people, whether it's a marketplace, I think a lot of the time, it's not a case of online or a shop. And I think it's a very an old-fashioned way of looking at it. And I understand why, if you've never kind of had any brick and mortar store or never been part of kind of a building or whatever else, I think it's easy to just look at it that way. I totally get it. But there are so many different facets, like Bethany just said, of having a building and not just putting stock in and hoping that people come and turn up. And like, even with a great social media following, if you're a brand, to get people through a door nowadays is so much harder, even for massive brands. And that's why even people like the big fashion houses, like I said before, Prada, I think, currently have a cafe, coffee shop in London. Tiffany's last year did an ice rink in the middle of London. Like, there are things people do, brands to lure you in without over and above just having a shop big enough and well known enough to come and buy from.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I was having a discussion with some other people earlier about the high street shops themselves. I honestly believe, as sad as this is going to sound, I think in about 5 years' time, I think the high street as we know it is going to be completely either shut down or changed completely. I think with online now, I mean, look at the likes of Amazon. You can order something on Amazon this morning and it can be delivered this evening. It's that quick now, and I think it's only going to get quicker. And I think a lot of people are going to change their ways, which for us as online resellers is great, because it's going to draw more attention to the online platform. But it's also sad to see all of these shops now shutting down, slowly disappearing off the high street.
I think for a lot of people, like you said, it is very sad, and especially people who have worked their whole lives, and maybe their fathers or mothers or parents or relatives have worked their whole of their lives to keep these businesses and sustain what was happening. The problem is, the world's changed. It's a big shift. Yeah. But I also think, as you just said, I don't necessarily say, like, I understand the high street, the old school high street. I think I agree with you on that 100%. But I also think Amazon, you just said, is a great example, right? So kind of one of the richest dudes in the world, thanks to Amazon now, Jeff Bezos. Having said that, he has also opened these new kind of stores, which in London, or right across the UK eventually, which you can go in and buy your fruit and veg and kind of more basic grocery stores if you want, which is the most old school of shoppers you can imagine in the UK. And you can do that with your Amazon account. So whether it's a concept or whether it's just to give you kind of the notoriety for the brand. So you're talking about, for example, now we're talking about Amazon in a totally different context and giving him that airplay. Not that he needs it, but in general, people will do that. And I think those things are done for conceptually, done for a reason, as opposed to actually come and buy a pint of milk. That's where he makes his money. It's not, it's to get that kind of, that buzz.
Absolutely. I'll just say a few more hellos. Leanne's in. Harry's in. He's been refreshing Instagram for the last 10 minutes, waiting for it to pop up. Come on, you knew this was on YouTube. We told you last week it's going to be on the tube. Good to see you in, mate. We've got, I'll say a few more hellos quickly. We'll go to some more questions. So Mark's in. Hi, Mark. We were speaking about you before we started. It was all good stuff, believe me. Robin's in as well. Right, let's get some more questions, and I've got some as well. So, yeah, keep the questions coming in. But George is saying, and this was one of my questions, so I'm going to tick it off my list. What has been the most luxurious item you've sold? And by luxurious, I mean expensive.
It'll be bags all day long.
Bags. Austin does watches as well. I don't really dabble in the watch side of things. I just let him get on with it because it's mainly for, like, I say it's like a hobby. It's really expensive. Because I don't get watches. But handbags are always going to be the most expensive. A standard Birkin at the moment, you're going to get a 10 grand plus based on condition.
And that's like base level. Like if you can get something under 10 grand, it's usually because it's kind of the condition isn't there,
or it's vintage,
or it's really, really vintage, or there's no kind of obvious provenance, and you have to get that kind of authenticated.
I say that, but Chanel's have gone up they're just about to go up to 9,100 for a Chanel, a flat retail, so they'll be reselling around the same amount. So they're a great investment at the moment. But handbags in general, I can't say like a particular one because there's been a lot at the same price point, if that makes sense. I agree. There's not been one for like $250,000. We're not on Sotheby's auction list or anything.
I would say for me, for sure, I think to like a lot of the stuff which we sell kind of I call person to person. So for example, we have clients from our brick and mortar stores we made those relationships with. We would buy from them and kind of place them to someone else. So if someone says, I'm thinking about selling this, actually I know Sarah, for example, she wants this. Great. And we put person to person, obviously put our tax, if you will, in between, and that that's how we make the money. For a lot of the time, though, to buy those bags outright, like for example, like you say, a 35 Birkin at the moment in Togo leather of a decent age, you're talking between about, I don't know, anything between 12 and 20, depending on condition, year, etc., etc. When you say that, it sounds amazing. It's like 20,000, but the reality is, it's like the watch world. You might make, I don't know, if it was a really good deal and you could get it really kind of quick and it's an easy deal, with all the costs involved for you, maybe 2,000. Well, that's a lot of money, but it's a lot less than 20,000. So to say, I mean, we don't do videos on those because usually it's private, more kind of client based, and I just wouldn't, to be honest, for personal reasons for the customer, But if I'm honest, we've done a lot over 20,000, being really truthful, individual sales. But as I say, I don't kind of class it as our everyday. Just put it through eBay. It's not so it's not there to be honest.
I like this question from Alison. because when I was sitting with you, Bethany, at the Open, we were going into depth more about your beginner story. I was going into personal questions like, how did you guys meet, and finding out all about your jobs before the online reselling, what lots of us know you guys as now. But have you both ever met your favorite fashion icons?
Well, I'm a big, if anyone doesn't know, Austin and I met at Mulberry when we were working for Mulberry, and I'm a big Mulberry fan. It's a weird thing because I actually don't like Mulberry in terms of a fashion choice. But I think because it was my first like route into luxury fashion, it has like a soft spot in my life.
Like your first love,
in my heart. And the owners of Mulberry, the original owners who founded the company, they live locally, and they have a little sort of like store locally where they sell old Mulberry pieces. So we've met them multiple times. So
they were like the founder,
the founder of Mulberry, which to me is like geeky, but is really cool.
Well, if you're into Christian Dior, it'd be like meeting Christian Dior back then, you know?
Mr. Mulberry, technically. I met Alice Templey at a flea market, and I actually like had like heart palpitations and couldn't breathe. But we haven't. So
the other people we met. So Johnny Coco was one of the big changes for Celine, but also Mulberry later on. Johnny Coco, you can Google him.
He's head of handbags for Louis Vuitton now.
He works for Louis Vuitton now, and he's kind of worked up the ranks. But when he was in Mulberry, he came into the store, kind of spoke to us and got our opinions, if you will, on what was out, what the brand was, what it was, because he was kind of doing a deep dive into the archives locally, because we live near to the older factories. We met him.
I think depressingly, most of my fashion icons are
dead. Yeah, I was just going to say that, and that's half the problem.
Like Vivian Westwood's my
Alexander
girl,
McQueen,
and Alexander McQueen, and they're both unfortunately deceased. So
like it sounds really sad, but it's kind of like musicians. Like you have to go and, like I would say, Daniel, it sounds so cliche, but if you're really into someone music wise, even if it costs the world, go and see them now.
Yeah.
Like I just think, because like when they're gone, they're gone. You can't do anything about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, before we get to some more questions in the chat, I have a question for you guys. Well, I kind of know the answer, but for the people, what platforms do you guys list your items on? And what are the benefits of the platforms? Because I guess Posh offers you something different to eBay, and also something different to Vestiaire. I've been practicing that one. So what platforms do you guys list on, and what are your reasons behind it?
Well, we're big cross listers. The main reasons we cross list, and I tell anyone who wants to listen, is because very early on in our reselling career, when we still had shops, we were eBay, and we couldn't sell on eBay for a very long time. So we needed to utilize as many extra platforms as possible, and then we just got like hooked on the multi-platform listing. But we do eBay. We do eBay generally. I use eBay as a central hub. So eBay, we know it, right? We don't have to go through it. eBay has the biggest reach in the world. It is the best marketplace.
I was just going to say it's the best. Anyone who tells you that, for whatever reason, it is either wrong or lying.
So it's the central hub we use to everything. So we list everything on eBay, and then we cross-list it through a third-party cross-listing app, right? So we do Depop. I put high-end on Depop, and it is one of my favorite marketplaces to sell on, because I find there's very little. I mean, it does have a younger clientele. I think that's obvious, but that doesn't necessarily restrict it to a younger clientele. We get a lot of US custom from our Depop, especially stylists who are looking for more unusual pieces. I sold a pair of Gucci trousers for $1,250 on Depop, which had been sitting on eBay and didn't sell. So Depop I really enjoy, and Vestiaire I have to manually list to, because there has a system of authentication encrypted into it. So the back end is a little bit harder to get into. But Vestiaire I use for all high-end goods. Now, I was only listing items £80 and over, because their fee structure is a bit...
It was 20%.
Heart palpitating. However, they have just reduced all their fees to 10% across the whole platform. So now I'm going to concentrate on actually cross-listing some only high-end brands, but lower price point pieces.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Vestiaire is a luxury marketplace. It wasn't intended to be that. So the clientele that go to Vestiaire are normally looking for those sorts of pieces. You can put whatever you want on there, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to sell or get as many eyes as a high-end piece would. If you ever see any of the influencer stuff they do or any of the marketing, is always aimed at buying a pre-owned Chanel or a pre-owned Fendi. There's never like, go to a Vestiaire and buy a mint velvet top. It just doesn't happen, but you can list mint velvet if you wish to. And with the reduced fees now, then it makes it more viable to do so. And then what else do we use? Poshmark.
Poshmark. Yeah.
I was going to say, how can you forget Posh?
Just quickly though on Vestiaire, I was going to say, as you're just finishing now, the other thing, the main thing I would say about Vestiaire, if anyone doesn't list on there, as Bethany said, it is a luxury marketplace technically. So technically because the fees before, I think it'll probably you'll have other brands coming on there now because you can afford to at 10% as a reseller to put them on there and kind of still make some good money. On the flip side, I would say some of our largest, strongest sales, and not only our sales, but some of our best contact as regards people contact us and asking, because you can comment on an item, you can message, you can't message unless you buy, but you can offer. And some of our best kind of sales leads, if you want, via contacts have come through Vestiaire. So we use that, like Bethany said, we ship worldwide, and because they pick their own shipping, you never have to pay a penny shipping wise. You don't have to worry about covering the shipping. They do all that for you in the same way, kind of, I guess, in the same way someone would yeah, exactly that. With the V. With a V. So in that respect, it's very easy, and you don't have to worry about it's all insured. And for some of the larger priced items, I will say that we have sold on there, it's not a worry. Whereas sometimes, even with GSP, with all due respect, they're great, and but when I'm sending a £1,700 blazer, it's a little bit different, So I don't know, but either way, what I'm saying is, if you sell any kind of luxury, or even if you sell a few items, every now and then to put a sprinkle on that, I don't think it hurts your sales. Let's put it that way.
So you guys, you mentioned it at the end there, Posh, you guys are big on Posh. And although I don't do it, as we all know, I'm one platform, I do eBay. I actually listed an item on the V the other day because I can't list it on eBay. It was actually a Bayern Munich football shirt, and I actually got a Vero for it. So because it's come off eBay, it's like a legit shirt. It's just they don't like, for some reason, Bayern Munich, I've read up in it, it's like not allowed. Anyway, so I put it on the other day, but I don't cross list. But I have seen lots of people enjoying the live shows with regards to Posh. And I've been in the shows myself. I even sold on Michelle's show and done one item to support her and her show. So I see a lot of benefits to that live selling aspect. What would you say is the downside to Posh? Why would I not want to join Posh tomorrow, would you say? Because I know the benefits, but what is the downside at the moment? What could be improved maybe for the people who aren't on Posh, who might want to get into it?
Attitude.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with Posh. It's a growing marketplace. It's brand new, right? We're big American followers, for anyone who doesn't know. I'm getting my emigration on. Just you wait. But we're big American followers, and I follow a lot of people that use Posh before, because America have only just got the live selling too. So they have to catch up with whatnot. So before that, it was just Poshmark. There was Poshmark, Mercury or something like that. And obviously eBay and those sorts of things. And I've watched for years people use this application. And when they said it was coming, I got an email to say that some American had not sponsored us, had nominated us to be on beta. I honestly, I lost my S word. I was like, yes, I've been waiting this long. And I was so surprised when no one else was like, there were a few people, but no one else was like as jazzed as I was. I was like, this is amazing. This was all before we ever knew live selling was going to be involved. I was just jazzed to have Poshmark, because as in America, as in here, Poshmark has made millionaires. There are people that are just Poshmark sellers. They don't even use eBay. They're just solely, mostly women's wear, men's wear, but it's mainly clothing. But that work it so hard that it is their only platform. So the introduction of live selling was just an added bonus. I think because it's so new, and in its infancy in the UK, and we're, as classic British humans, new things and change is scary.
We don't like it.
No, can you imagine what eBay was like in the first 3 months of it coming to the UK? I bet you there was like issues left, right, centre. Last year, eBay held $2,000 of our money for 3 months because of a payment issue. You know, when eBay payments went down. Like, it took me that long to get money back. Like, there are issues all the time with all the marketplaces, especially new ones. And I think it's very hard to put a lot of work into something where you don't see instant results. That's like anything in life. Like, if you want to lose weight and you start running tomorrow, the next day you're not going to lose a stone, and that's okay.
Oh, but believe me, I know. I was expected to wake up this morning and be about 6 stone lighter, but you know,
it's true, isn't it? And I think I know you've talked about it before on these lives, and the ethos of having a hard-working attitude. But it's the same thing. I understand it's so time consuming, and there are a lot of different features on it which we've never seen before in the UK. But to have the privilege of being in a marketplace which has proven results across the world this early on is a gift.
I think there's two sides as well to Posh. I think there's the stores, or the wardrobes, or the closets, the Cullen Estates, and there's the lives. So like Bethany just said, bear in mind, when we had Posh come over here, even as a beta, within probably about 3 or 4 weeks of it being released here, we also had live selling. So they not only released that thing across the board here as a kind of a marketplace, but we also had the live selling aspect. In the States, they've been out 10 years, and they built up the Posh closets, they built up sellers, they built up relationships. We didn't have that chance. Then we went from that. Everyone's attention straight away went from that to live selling, because it's something different for the UK. You can't sell clothes live in the UK apart from on Posh, right? Within reason, there's no Instagram, but you see what I'm saying, officially. And even Instagram, you've got to work out payments, who's paying for what, how much for the bid.
It's not simple.
No, it's not. So from our point of view, we're like, okay, let's get on, let's do it. And I think, from our point of view, the live selling works great. We've done well with it, and we've pushed it as hard as we can. But I said in a podcast recently, we covered this on one of our podcasts, and I said personally that I think a lot of it is down to work and work ethic. Now, I'm not saying somebody who doesn't do a live is being lazy or should do. What I'm saying from my point of view, if I hadn't done the lives, I would be telling you a different story. But I can only give you my opinion based on what we've done. And someone mentioned at the time, I think it was on one of our YouTube videos, well, it's okay for you. You have a following of sorts from social media. And my answer was, well, there are people with much larger social media followings who haven't done anything on the app and are on the app. So is that based on my work on the app, or our work on the app, or is that based on the following? It's obvious that it's just the work. Now, it's not for everyone. And in the same respect, the same podcast, I mentioned that maybe live selling is not for everyone. We have some amazing reseller friends, which I won't name, but they've said, I won't live sell if you pay me, because it's not my thing. It's not my thing. I won't be able to do it. I don't enjoy it. It would stress me. Cool. And I think some people, to actually vocalize that is awesome. Like, it's not for everyone. But I think when you're used to, like yourself, James, if you're used to having a camera on and kind of documenting these things, good, bad, or indifferent, it can go really pear-shaped, really fast.
Oh, absolutely.
But we're used to doing it, so we kind of you get over that quickly.
It's that thing, like, if you come off holiday mode and you're like sales drop or whatever, and because your sales are dropped, you're like, oh, I can't be bothered for a minute, I'm going to stop listing, I'm going to focus on something else. That consistency and that lack of consistency will do you harm and do your eBay store harm. If you have been listing consistently on Poshmark, maybe even like cross-listing, if you're a cross-lister from eBay or whatever, 5 a day, just do 5 a day and just say to yourself, I'm not going to get a sale. And manage your expectations. I'm not going to get a sale, but in 6 months' time, when 1 million people join, I'm going to have the biggest store on the application, and my store is going to be the easiest to find instantly because I'm already going to have that stock on there. It's that whole consistency of being able to be first, so take advantage of it. Does that make sense?
Do you know what really rang true to me? Because I'm very much one of them people, like, just because I don't use a certain platform, I'm not going to sit there and slate it, because until I've used it myself, I can never turn around and say, do you know what? Depop's a load of rubbish. I've never used Depop. You know, I can never turn around and say Posh a load of rubbish. I mean, I've sold once with Michelle, but I've purchased from there, and I've actually brought stuff on there, partly to support Michelle, for instance. But some of the stuff I've got stuck in. I'm watching Michelle's show, and I'm like, I'm 40 minutes in here. Hold on, it's all women's clothing. I don't even sell women's clothing, but it's entertaining. But do you know what? I will shout out the podcast, because it really rang true to me when I listened. So for anyone who doesn't know, you guys do a podcast called The Hard Sell. You can have it on YouTube, Spotify, and all the other great platforms. But something you guys said that really made my ears perk up and made me kind of get it a bit more. And it's a bit harsh, but I'm just going to say it. Don't use Posh as your clearance platform. Because I think a lot of people see the live shows as, I've got all of this stuff here that I can't sell on eBay for £5. Let me bring it over to Posh, and it's going to sell there. I mean, the auction start at £5. If you're struggling to sell on eBay, don't use that as a clearance thing. And the only time I've considered at the moment to go on Posh and to sell is to clear some of the everything items I'm looking to clear before I move on to clothing. But watching shows and watching what you guys are saying, that is not the best route, because you're going to go on there with stuff that is hard to sell, and you're going to feel a little bit disappointed. So you're going to come away from the show. It takes so much time, and you're probably putting in an hour and a half effort beforehand, before the show. I mean, when you guys done 100 items, I can't imagine how much effort you put in before. And then after the show, I've spoke to Michelle many a times, and she says she's packing up until 11 o'clock at night sometimes on a Sunday to make sure the orders get shipped out. So there's lots of work involved. So you want to make sure it's worth your time. So for the people, and again, this is coming from somebody who doesn't sell on Posh, but from the people who are maybe using Posh as that clearance thing, bring some of your non-clearance items to the show and see what your results are from that point. Yeah. So for me, if I was to ever come onto Posh and do live selling, it would be good items that people can buy to either resell or buy to keep. It's not going to be, and I'm going to use it as an example, it's not going to be a pair of, shout out Tesco, it's nothing wrong with Tesco jeans, by the way, but it's not going to be a pair of Tesco jeans that someone can go and buy in the shop brand new for £6, and I'm starting the auction at £5, because you're probably not going to get many bids, and the bids you do get might be people who are there as friends supporting you, which is also great. And what I will say as well with support, oh no, hold on, let me get this one here. Where did you get your jumper from, James? This is from Mark from Posh. So when I say about, I'm not going to slate Posh, I brought stuff from Posh for myself. So I think it's got legs. And the one thing I asked the reps at the eBay Open was, when is this going to come to eBay? When is live selling going to come to eBay? And I think they've trialed it, but they don't seem too keen on doing it. And I think they're going to fall behind massively, because I agree with you guys, in the future, for the people who want to do it, it's a fantastic way, because you can sell lots of items in one show. And also, it's that entertainment factor. People like entertainment. It's similar to YouTube, isn't it? People like watching YouTube, a mixture between learning and entertainment. And I think the Posh shows are the same. So I'm all for, although I don't do it myself, I'm all for the live selling aspect, because I think it is going to be the way of the future. The days of QVC are dead. Yeah, but this is a new format. So.
I think as well, as just to pick up on what you just said, with the specific items, I think one of the main things to remember as well is a lot of the people initially, and still to this day on Posh, whether they're resellers or they're just kind of they're people buying for themselves, or they're resellers buying for themselves, whatever it might be. I think one of the main things you have to remember as well is, most of us know a little bit about clothes. So if you are going to go on and you're going to put like 4 or 5 items, your first few items are just maybe not the best. The reality is, it's not, like you said, it's not a clearance situation. If anything, like, I'll tell you this much: if you decided to do a show, James, and you put let me give you an example. So you had a nice Burberry bag you found at the boot sale, paid a couple of quid, whatever else. You might think, oh, this could be £300 or £400 on eBay. But if you took the risk and said, you know what, I'm going to start it for a 5 or a 10 or 20 or 30 quid, I promise you, I don't know if it'll reach the heights of what you get on eBay eventually, but I promise you that night you'd sell it. I'm probably well over 100, maybe 2, maybe 3, who knows, depends who's in. But that's the risk of an auction. And that would be the same if you auction it on eBay. The difference is, at the moment, there aren't as many eyes on that as there are, for example, on eBay. Having said that, this product we've had on eBay, you can put on Posh, quality product, and it will sell instantly for around about the same money, or sometimes more. I just think that proves that if you actually have the what to put proper product on there and take the risk. You know, I've also seen people put real nice product on, but starting crazy money. Well, that's not an auction. That's I hope I'm getting what I'm going to get somewhere else, and then a little bit more. There's no reason for someone to start bidding on that. You've got to give someone a reason to chance get a bargain, maybe, and that's the whole point of an auction.
Absolutely. Let me catch up on a bit of the side chat. I don't want to ignore the people here. Jamie's asked, "What's your greatest business achievement?"
What's your greatest business achievement?
Do you know what? I would actually say
my bank balance.
Yeah, no. Over and above that, I would actually say when we first started, as we just said, Bethany was at Gucci, I was at Jimmy Choo. Dior. When we first started, and we were kind of like, okay, so what do we do now? We have a little bit of savings wise, but we really we got to go at it to make money. The first kind of time we could put our heads up and be like, yeah, okay, so from us just doing our little thing, we were able to cover what we needed to financially, look after the little one, look after ourselves, and then step back and be like, okay, so this works. And as cliche and as cheesy as that sounds, I know you've had numerous conversations on your podcast about when people should jump from maybe part-time to full-time and all that kind of stuff. And everyone's different. Some people like to, have a chunk of money in the bank. Some people will never do it. Some people enjoy the full-time wage and will stay part-time the whole of their life. That's cool too. Like everyone's each their own, right? But for us, when we knew we would just had it with those roles and those jobs, it was no case of sink or swim. We had to swim, otherwise we were literally dead.
You had no choice.
No, and you make it work. And it's surprising. It's surprising the fact that everything's on the line. You just do it. You just do it. You have no choice. And someone said to us recently, I can't believe you just do that. Well, it was that, or do what we weren't enjoying at the time and really think, well, okay, so this is us now for the rest of our days. Nah, we were just too motivated not to do that. And it had to work. But I would say for me, that's the answer. The greatest business achievement was realizing initially that, okay, this is actually viable. And we can not only keep our heads above water, but progress. And hopefully, well, sky's the limit then, you know?
It's probably similar to mine. I think when people ask me the same question, when I think about it deep down, you can always sort of say, oh, it was this day here when I had my biggest ever sales day. But for me, it's probably similar. It's actually realizing that you can do this on your own. You can build your own business. And it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of, I don't want to say blood, sweat, and tears, but sometimes it is that. It takes a lot of hours. It takes a lot of grind. It takes a lot of giving up things. It takes a lot of commitment. But everyone can do it. But you've got to want to do it to the level you do. And like you say earlier, I completely agree. There's some people who want to do it to a certain level, and that's great. That's amazing. It works for them. There's some people who want to go to another level. And funnily enough, one of the conversations we had, Bethany and I, after a couple of glasses of wine, I think at that point, Bethany said to me, she goes, you want to be a millionaire, don't you? And I was like, yeah, because I could tell. And she goes, the next line from her mouth was, but that's not going to be enough for you, is it? And I was like, absolutely not. Because that's where I want to get to. Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So there's a moment, and we watch it every year, once a year we watch it. There's a moment where he goes back to the flat after they won their millions, and it's not enough. And he would rather be selling phones made in Kazakhstan
down the market,
than
shout out Kazakhstan,
being a millionaire. Because for some people, it's not.
It's a journey.
It's a lifestyle.
Yes.
So you wake up in the morning, and Luke said it the other day. Luke Waters Cover said it the other day. And what motivates you? It's not about motivation. I personally, I can't speak for it, or I can speak for us. I wake up every day, and it's not about, oh, what have I got to do today? I do it because that's what I do. My whole psyche is that.
It's your purpose.
It's a purpose. My purpose is more than most people maybe think about on a daily basis, but that's how my brain is wired, and I can't think about anything else.
It's like it is. You know, when you see when people fighters, whether it's UFC or boxers, and they say you literally have to, and it's a very different thing, I know, but they say you have to literally live, drink, breathe the whole thing. And it sounds funny because for most people, like, get over yourself. You go to charity shops, or you go to boot sales, or you source and you do this. But the reality is, even from us with the fashion thing, you do those things. But the reason you can get through those things mentally is because, in actual fact, whether it's the freedom, whether it's the fact that you can clock off at 3, whether it's the fact that you can work all weekend and really enjoy it, whether it's the fact you can see your mates on the weekend and not have to worry about how many beers you buy. it means different things to different people. And like, that's never, I hate when people discuss like, or kind of get into it, that you should do this, you should do this. Now, that reselling is exactly that. You can sell one thing on eBay and but replace with another, and you're a reseller. You can sell 1 million units a week and you're a reseller. There's so many different variants, right? So let's not, like, we can have our opinion, you got your opinion, and everyone in the chat, like, have your opinion, because that's what makes human beings great. But I think when you get into conversations, everyone's got an opinion, and resellers are the most fun people to be around, because we'll slate each other till we're blue in the face, right? All of us do. But we got one common goal, and I think it's the passion. I think we love what we do, and it's like, no, you're wrong. And that's so cool, because you care. If you're like, oh, I suppose you got a point, whatever. Like, no one wants that. You want people to care. You should care. Like that, whether it's your business, whether it's your hustle, whether you just want to do it for an hour every week and, you know, make a couple extra quid. I think it's interesting. I think reselling is a big part of a lot of people's lives. And I think it's important for a lot of people to understand that not everyone's plan is your plan. So that's cool. Just take bits. If you have to take bits from every person you ever met, that's like life, no? The information you choose to take from people, whether it's family, whether it's, you know, friends, whether it's someone on TV, like, just take nuggets enough that you can build yourself to like the best version of you, you know?
Do you know what? You said a couple of things there, and it really rang true in the sense of, until they bring out a eBay or reselling diploma, there is so many different ways to do reselling completely. You know, some people want to list all their items straight away. Some people want to spread out throughout the day. Some people want to list every other day. Some want to list every single day. There's so many different ways. There's no rights or wrongs. And what you're saying about passion there, it reminded me of one of the best books I've read. And you mentioned boxing. It's my favorite boxing promoter, Eddie Hearn, who released a book called No Passion, No Point. And he is a grafter. And he says, you know, I've had to commit so much stuff to get to where I want to be. But he was given the company by his dad. Barry. So he's always got that over his head, who people always say to him, you were given the company, you haven't earned it. And he goes, I've changed this company. I've took it from where it was to where it is now. And the guy's a legend. I watch his interviews, and he's funny as anything. But he's always got that thing. It's all about drive, and it's all about, you can make of this what you want. I could have easily just sat back and let it tick along. It would have kept going. It would have ticked along to a certain level. Happy days.
And he would have been rich for the rest of his life,
somewhere
as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He would have been good. It wasn't a case of, oh, well, I need to do this. And he could, like you say, he could have sat there being that kind of spoiled, you know what, and just carried on.
Easily.
And he doesn't. He's always the hardest worker in the room, that guy.
If you also read about, I like Eddie Hearn too, but if you also read about his dad, who actually owned Leighton Orient Football Club, and poker.com, etc., he came from nothing, zero. So I also think generationally, like, you have it like in your psyche that you're a grafter. I think when you've come from nothing, I wouldn't say I've come from nothing. My parents are both very hardworking people, but what we do for a living wouldn't be categorized as a career or a profession. So we have done what we've done stone cold on our own. I think that is also another massive drive to achieve. Does that you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's a good, actually, to mention Jamie's question again, your greatest business achievement. I think that's a big thing which is important to say, like you said, you've created this, and that's what I was trying to say, but I don't say it as well as Bethany does, is that to be able to have the living we do, but based from no one else. Like, no one can say, well, we gave you that, or we did that for you. And I think there's a part of everyone wants to be like, I can't say it on a live stream, but you like basically put two fingers up to the world and say, we did this. And I think like that's life, and that's so hard whilst you're, whatever you're doing, like I say, you're listing one item, it doesn't matter if you could afford to go out on the weekend or whatever it is, or pay your mortgage. It's so important as human beings that we can stand on our own 2 feet and say, yeah, that was us, we did that. And I think whatever level you're at, that's so important, and it's such a good point.
Do you know what? Something that's been quite hot in the community recently, and I've been proud to be able to do it. I know Michelle done it and a few other people, about talking about your numbers and your figures, and it is personal to you. But I also encourage people to be proud of what you have achieved, because for most people in the reselling field, you've got to remember, you're not starting your own business with 10, 15, 20,000 pounds. For most people, most people are starting their business for as little as £5, £10, £15, and buying them 3 or 4 items down the car boot sale and flipping them over and redoing it. So most people are starting from literally zero in that sense. So when we talk about sharing numbers and being proud of your figures, that makes me more proud when you look at your numbers and you say, actually, I've got X amount of value in my store. I've made X amount this month or X amount this day. And all of this has started. And I know for me, all of this has started. I had £100 in my business account to start this. And now where you look at where it's gone. So what I'm trying to say to people when it comes to numbers, think about the start of your journey to where you are now. And people have messaged me and said, oh, you know, I'm struggling to get over the £5,000 90 day, but I will get there. And I'm like, yeah, but that's £5,000 in the 90 day from where you started. So look back at where you started and be proud of it as well. So that comes again about your work ethic. And like you said, then no one has given you that. No one has given you a business and said, here's all the stock. It's yours to run. Most people are starting it from literally scratch.
In actual fact, in a lot of cases, I don't know how other people feel. If you have the same experience, put in the chat maybe. But I think for a lot of people too, we were looked on like, and we still are in some ways by both our sets of parents is kind of crazy because we literally buy things and sell them online, and like it makes it sound like that, you know, you're no disrespect to a 14-year-old boy, but it makes you sound like a 14-year-old boy, you know, selling something on eBay and, you know, buying himself, I don't know, a magazine or a computer game. You know what I mean? But like, I don't think a lot of people, it's not even a generational thing, because I've met like old school resellers who really know what's going on. I think it's just, if you've never dealt with it yourself personally, I think for a lot of people, it can be a bit kind of taken aback. So I know a lot of people, it's important to have those people around you. And like you just said, with the 90 day, even more so, because it's individual goals. Like, you know, for a lot of people, I think sometimes people are like, oh, she's a cop out. No, that's not. Like, the truth of the matter is, like, we do a lot of, like I just said now at the beginning, there's a lot of sales, for example. We do week to week, month to month sometimes, but big sales. I could put one of those up and people would be like, wow. But the truth of it is, whether it's for good or for bad, there might be, out of a 20 grand sale, there might be 2 grand, right? On one bag. If I do 10 of them a month, happy days, right? More often than not, it's not 10, it's more than like 5 or 8. But the truth of the matter is that's a whole income on its own, which we don't generally talk about. But the key is, when people talk about the 90 days, if you're solely an eBay seller, I totally get that. But there's a lot of other people like we know who have like mediocre, they'll send us and say, oh, it's not a great 90 day, in their opinion. And we're like, what? Like, you do sell on eBay and that you did that on eBay. Outstanding. But they're like, oh, well, I'm trying to get to so-and-so. So it's all about your journey. And I know it sounds like quite cliche and cheesy, but it's so true. Like you said, whether it's £500 you're trying to chase, or whether it's, you know, 500,000, it's irrelevant really, because it's the key is to make a plan of how you're going to get there. Forget everyone else. Everyone else should be motivation. There should never be jealousy or hate or like just stop, like just chill. Let's all work out what we can do. It's the same mentality as seeing someone go drive past in a lovely car, and you're like, Bethany, I tell you all the time, if we go past anyone and I'm seeing the car, for example, I'm like, look at that. Like, you won't ever hear me say, oh, look at that. Look at that. Or, you know, I'm not that guy. I've been in the cars the whole of my life, and I'll be the day I die. I'm lucky enough now to the point where I can start buying nicer cars. But the truth of the matter is, even now, I'll see cars and I'll be like, oh, look at that. I just think it's a different mentality. And as soon as your mentality changes and you're like, I think it's a positivity thing too, without going on a mad one. Like like I'm a mad positive. We're good, we got time. I'm a mad positive person until I'm not. And I think sometimes, like, I'm human like everyone else is, but I try and stay as positive as possible, because anytime I'm negative, only bad things happen. When I'm positive, like, that's the best time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love seeing the positive posts. I mean, with Instagram, you see lots of it as well. And I know he's in the chat. I just want to shout out Mark as well, because he's, in the last couple of weeks, I've seen a change in him as well, with his like mentality towards it, where he's becoming a lot more consistent now. And he done a post yesterday and it was really good. He was like, this is what I've achieved. This is what I've scheduled. This is this it is. And I messaged him and I said, I'm so proud of you. Like, this is great. And although it might feel like a bit of a slog at times, in a few weeks' time, this is all going to pay dividends, and you'll be buzzing, because you'll be like, this is amazing. Look at all these sales coming through from the work I put in. So that's another thing as well. With running your own business, we all got to understand we're all solo effectively. I mean, you guys do it as a pair, but we're all solo in that sense, where don't compare yourself to other people, but also be proud to be able to post, you know what, I've done this today and I'm happy about it. Don't be scared to do it. No. Let me move on. That was a long answer to Jamie's question, but we're going to say a few more hellos. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Lucy. Lucy was late down the lake at the Lake District. Hope you had a good time. Right, question from Charlotte. Any lessons learned, takeaways from your summer tours of sourcing? Yeah, talk about your summer tour of sourcing and lessons you've taken away from van life.
Do you know what? My biggest lesson is leave the country. Honestly, I don't know if anyone knows, but we make YouTube videos every now and then. Less more.
Plug the channel. Don't just say now and again. Shout out the luxury pickers. Go and follow them on YouTube.
We were going hardcore there for a minute. We were like, every day we're gonna.
We did every day for like 6 months, yeah.
And I wasn't necessarily for me, I wasn't necessarily happy with the content from a perspective that I like everything to have value, because I'm not an expert at reselling. In fact, do you know what? Big controversial thing. If anyone ever asks me, I never say I'm a reseller. I'm a fashion dealer.
True.
And there's a difference between being a reseller and a dealer, and it's feelings. A reseller sells clothes or whatever you sell, and it's in, out, in, out, in, out. Dealer has like a weird, innate thing that is in their soul that they get emotionally attached to things, and that's okay. You can be either, but
and you know what, you can't lose it either. It's there or it's not.
Yeah, so I like to add value to our videos. We were making a lot of charity shop videos, etc., so on and so forth. They obviously, because I suggest we were putting out a lot of them, they started to get picked up by charity shops, and there's a beautiful forum on Facebook that is dedicated to the hatred of us, and it is run by charity shop managers.
Link in the description, by the way, for that. If you want to go and add to the hate.
People do know it, and they talk continuously about us, and we joined it. I'm head of charity. I'm not going to mention, so don't kick me out. And they literally put in there where we have been. We'll go to a local place and it will come up and say they're currently.
It's like your criminals, isn't it? It's like the neighbourhood watch area. Don't let them into your shop.
We started going into our local shops, and we've been banned from about 4 of them. One of them, a lady just started coming at us, shouting at us, and honestly, it's made it so hard and uncomfortable to go into charity shops. So our content has just gone.
Do you know what, as well? Being honest, and this is what people don't understand. You maybe would, or if anyone in the chat obviously makes YouTube videos, you totally would, or Instagram content, or any content of any kind. It would have been so easy for me to put my camera on and have a mad rant on my camera and let them rip and just go on YouTube and be like, look what happened to us. That would have done mad numbers, right? But there comes a point when, what Bethany I think is saying is, we kind of put our foot off the gas a little bit as regards to videos, as regards to charity shops, because we kind of became notorious, if you will. It got to the point where I don't need hassle. I want to go and buy things. I want to spend money in the shop.
I find it hard from the perspective that I love charity shops. I love them more than any car boot sale ever, and I fully promote them. I am like charity.
And that's probably unpopular to say, but it's true for us. Every
day of the week, I'm like, go to charity shops. Everyone should go to charity shops. And then when the people working at charity shops started in a way turn against us, I was like, what? I'm pro charity shops. I'm
advocates, you know.
Friend.
Was it the filming, or was it the reselling they didn't like?
Both. It's a big thing. They hate resellers on this group, and they actively talk about how much they don't like them. I mean, there are lovely people on there that have defended us, etc.
Oh, there are, yeah.
But when they start going at the way you physically look and stuff that, it's
I'll be honest. Some of it, I'll say this because Bethany won't. Some of those people should not only just be banned from Facebook, but they should lose their jobs. And I'm going to say that out loud because it's nothing to do with the charity. The charity is all sweet as a nut, and they are very, very good at what they do. When a person's put in a position of power, as I was in many luxury stores, you've got a certain way you need to be in professionalism. You need to act on, and when you don't, I don't care who you are or what you do, or if it's to us personally or to you, James, or to anyone else. I just think, would I want my mum to deal with that? Would I want my grandmother to deal with that? Would I want anyone to deal with that I know? No, I wouldn't. And when someone like Bethany just said, they want to in a negative way talk about how you look or this is just, it's got to stop there.
However, it's a personal attack. It's a personal attack, and that's where the line has to be drawn.
What we learned is we're going to go abroad. So I think we've got a lot of overseas trips planned for this year, and I think we're going to try and work as hard as possible to basically thrift our way through the world.
Yeah, the thing is, it became a case of like, it's just like, you know, it's a lot easier to go in the shop, buy things and source without the hassle of having to go for or explain yourself. Or these people who have kind of give us grief, their issue isn't with the spending, because why would it be? They need our money. And I'll be honest, I say that with all due respect, because we spend a lot of it in charity shops. You know, the kind of stuff we buy, the kind of stuff we see, the kind of amount we buy. But the truth of the matter is, when it comes to the point it causes issues, I'd rather not go for it. I'd rather not film it. And for Bethany, I know it's a little bit different to me. I have no only ways to GoPro, so I'm not so bothered. But the truth is, I don't need them to have people called names online or to like. That's not what I do it for. You know, because I think it's more for me. If I was trying to get something for nothing, I get it. You're kind of abusing it. You whatever else. But when you're spending a lot, like we all do, like we all have. I just don't have the time to be battling with people and why are you doing this? Or no, it's okay. I'll come, I'll buy, I'll sell, and that's fine. I'll just make the money and I'll leave it, you know?
And you know what, Austin, as well, what you're saying there, it's not like you are going in a charity shop with your GoPro on and you're seeing an item listed in a charity shop for £20 for a bag that you know you're going to sell for 60. It's not like you're then going up to the till and saying, oh, can I have this for 10?
No.
Can I have this for 5? You know, you're not negotiating, you're paying their prices. And this is where, I mean, bless them, my local charity shop down the road, they all watch my YouTube videos, which is great because I'll go in there and they'll be like, oh, I watched your one the other day, or I watched this one the other day, I watched your live the other day. And it's really good because when I go in there, they know me, but they also know what I do, and they put stuff aside for me. They give me stuff in hand now. It's great. But I was speaking to, you mentioned I was speaking to Warders, Luke, earlier. I rang him up and seen how he was getting on. And we were talking about charity shop sourcing. And we both feel like when we walk into the charity shop, we don't know whether it's just us, but we feel like we're being watched. Now, I never film in a charity shop. I've never done it personally, but I feel that old charity shop Sue behind the till, when I walk in and start flicking through the clothing rail, I don't know whether it's just a mental thing for me. I think she knows I'm a reseller. And it puts me off. And I find I don't really spend much time in the charity shop. Now, she probably isn't looking at me thinking he's a reseller. Probably looking at it being like, how handsome is he? Because that's what Bethany said when she first met me at the Open. Bethany's first words were,
she is, James.
Oh, you're a lot better looking in real life, is what she said. So I look awful on camera.
Listen, James is a stud. For anyone watching, James is a stud.
Yeah, promote me. But no, jokes aside, I feel like awkward doing it. So I can imagine how you guys feel seeing them post about you guys going into the charity shop with the camera. Because when you have the camera, regardless at the car boot or in charity shops, you do think about it a lot. Because I know when I source with the camera on, I sometimes think about getting the content compared to getting the really good items. And like at a weekend, I picked up a Nupsy 700 jacket gilet for £5. If I had the camera on, I probably would never have got that. And that's where I mentally go sometimes with the camera on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see where you guys are coming from. You're more about, do you know what? It's our job. Let's get the stuff compared to let's not have the hassle of being booted out of the charity shop.
I love the filming. I love everything around it. And I love charity shops and promoting them. I personally have a very sensitive disposition. And if anyone even says like a wrong word to me, I like crawl up into a tiny ball and like shudder in the corner like a puppy.
And the opposite side, I don't. So that's the problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just rather go about my business.
Yeah. I think the last thing I'll say on that, because I don't want to dwell on that too much, because it is what it is. But what I would say is, you know, like everyone's always going to use charity shops. They're one of the main places we can all source all year round. They do great things for people who need it or causes who need it. And I would never, ever want to come across as slighting the charities. When we talk about them, I'm talking about individuals. I'm talking about people. I'm talking about people who are just being silly. And what I will say is, so the funny thing is, some of these people have actually slid into our DMs as they're just their generic names, and we've authenticated for. I will just leave that there, and we'll move on.
We're going to talk about authentication later because I think that's something wonderful that you guys do. So, yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Basically, luxury pickers are going overseas because our charity shops are too much drama at times. So I look forward to seeing the overseas one. Right, let me just catch him on the chat. So Georgie's saying, I'm appreciating Depop a lot more. So yeah, he went and he's been told some secret squirrel stuff that he can't reveal at the moment.
I heard that in his video.
Like Depop. Yeah, it's teasing us. So it sounds like Depop are going to be making some positive changes. Simon's got a good question. Have you got a 1 year, 5 year business plan, and what are your thoughts on work-life balance? Great question.
Well, we had a really strict 5 year business plan when we had the shops until I had a mental breakdown at the age of 20, however I was. we won't say how old I was, but in my late 20s, and we had to. I think we chose to redo everything in terms of start again almost. Not financially, but like in terms of like how we were looking at the business because of it.
Yeah.
It's very different to have a sort of 5-year plan with brick and mortar stores and multiple brick and mortar stores than it is what we are doing now. And I think people will understand that it's a completely different sort of ball game in terms of everything. So we do have a 5-year business plan.
Yeah, we do.
And work-life balance. Work-life balance is a weird thing because I don't have a work-life balance. My life is my work.
Yeah, to talk about, I'll go back to the 5-year, 1 year, 5 year in a minute, but to talk about the work-life balance just quickly as well, is someone said to us, someone said once, oh, you basically, like we were dragging our little one around the boot sale, right? Now, I very rarely talk about the little one because it's our private life, right? But I will because people seem they need to mention it on YouTube and so on, and that's fine because she's in the videos and that's okay.
Well, it's not. No, let me sorry to interrupt. It's not fine though. That's your child. It's nothing to do with anyone else. If you take your child round the car boot sale or you take your child to a soft play, that is your decision.
The thing is though, and I appreciate you saying that, James. But from my point of view, what I will say is one of the main things we look at is Lil's since she was like born, she has done everything we've done. Like as mad as we are, as crazy we are as parents, she goes to school every day. She does what she needs to do, right? And not that I have to say that for anyone's point of view, but from my point of view, like for a lot of people, I think what happens on YouTube is the only thing that happens.
Yeah.
So like if it doesn't happen on camera for that 20 minutes or that 18 minutes, it never happened. We couldn't possibly go out anywhere after or do anything in our actual personal lives. You know, that's all that happened, and that's okay. And I think for a lot of people, it's like a TV show. You said yourself sometimes, I know you did a video recently talking about kind of, good, bad, and indifferent times you're having yourself. And the fact of the matter is, very few people, in fairness to you, very few people do that. Not because they're trying to be sly or sneaky, but for a lot of the time, it's hard to do that. It's not an easy thing to do. So when those things don't get shown, it's not necessarily because you don't want to show them, and it might be in some cases, but a lot of the time it's because we're doing this for entertainment as well. So I always think people always want to rant to it. That's why those videos do so well. When we met you, I made a joke. I said, about don't put me in a live. There's going to be big trouble. Blah blah blah.
Big drama. Yeah.
And you said it's okay. I'm not monetizing that channel yet. It doesn't matter. And the truth of that is, it's funny because like as much as we joke, like that would have got me talking nicely about everything we love to do probably won't get as many kind of views or as hits as me kicking off and losing the plot and throwing the headphones on, and all that. And that's fine, I get it. But sometimes it is just content. So I think a lot of people sometimes just need to understand that the work-life balance thing is literally where you want to make it. Like we have I'm speaking for us now, maybe Bethany disagrees, but we have a great work life, we have a great personal life. And it just so happens, look at the face, they kind of coincide, and we're lucky enough to be where we are. That's not the case for a lot of people, and I feel if that's not the case, I feel bad. But what I will say is, it's not an easy thing to get to that stage. Sometimes, someone said the other day about us, how are you with each other all the time? Since we met, that's all. Get off. Since we met, like that's all it's been. So you don't know any different. It's like if you grow up without a mum or you grow up without a dad.
Well, we met at work,
it's what you know. So it's not a case of I miss this. It's what you know. Do you know what I mean? I'm okay. We're good. But as regards the 1 to 5 year plan, we always like we always got a plan, and we kind of dice it up into chunks and work out yearly. But yeah, like if you don't, I think you kind of maybe if you have a goal, you've got to kind of know how you're heading towards it.
The work-life balance thing's really interesting for me because I've really struggled with that. I think from going from a recruitment typical 9 to 5, you come home from work, and a lot of people think even in your 9 to 5 you switch off. Now I can tell you from doing recruitment and managing a team, you do not switch off. You come home and you're dealing with emails, you're dealing with problems. You're up here, you've got all this stuff. Oh, I need to do this first thing tomorrow. I need to book this interview tomorrow, X, Y, and Z. And running your own business is exactly the same. And I've seen a lot of people, and I see comments of saying a lot of YouTubers make going full-time reselling look really easy. And that's what it comes down to, what you're saying there. We only show you 15, 20 minutes of our life, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week if you're lucky. That is all you see. And it's quite funny. I get messages on some of my YouTube videos where I've gone to the car boot and I picked up 5 or 6 items, and they said, "Hold on, you say you list 20 items a day. You've only picked up 5 items. How does that work out?" And you're like, "Well, you only see that one car boot sale. You don't see the rest of the work we're doing throughout the week. You don't see the other sources that I and other people do not mention on YouTube, because I'm not going to say to you, I've got this source. His name is Tim. Here's his address." You know, you're not going to tell people that.
What is Tim's address?
Yeah, well, I'll give it to you afterwards if you want. He's got no good stuff left anymore. But it's that entertainment factor. And I've really struggled with the work-life balance until recently. And yesterday I gave myself a day off because I'd scheduled the listings. But even the day off, because I do same day dispatch, I still have to come in, still have to do the postage. That's not complete day off. But actually, by giving myself that time off, it helps me kind of think about the business, reflect. But you never really completely switch off. And that's the commitment you have to make if you want to run your own business. Because even yesterday, the eBay app's still going off. You're dealing with customer messages. You're accepting offers. You're applying to things. You're sorting things out. And it got to the afternoon. I was sitting there inside and I'm like, I'm bored. And actually, it shows how passionate you are. So I came down here and done some more drafts. Not because I had to, but because I want to. And I know the work I put in now, like I said to Mark, it's going to pay off in weeks, months, or years to come. So for anyone watching this, I know sometimes it does look easy going full-time or even being part-time as a reseller, but just remember what you see on YouTube, and this is coming from a YouTuber, that's only a small snippet. Come and spend a week with me and watch everything we do and then make a decision. That's an open offer to anyone. If you're thinking about going full-time, come and spend really a couple of days working with me and see everything, and then you can make the decision. Because when I first joined, I must admit, I came into it thinking it was easier than what it actually is. And you quickly realise that it's a slog. It's a slog, and you can become a slave to, whether it be eBay, I'll say a slave to reselling. If you're not careful, you need to really manage it and make sure you have a bit of time where you can just kind of switch off and forget about reselling.
I have to say, the thought of switching off and forgetting about reselling sends shivers through my spine.
It's scary. It's so scary. And I had it yesterday. As I said, I thought I'm going to take a full day off. I'm not going to worry. And I said, it got to like lunchtime and I was sitting there being like, I don't want to watch Netflix. Like, I'd rather list a couple more clothing items. But right, let's get through the chat, because I know I'm quite far behind now. So let me just have a look here. So Chris is saying here, you can do live clothes on Whatnot, and I see him and Michelle are having a conversation about that.
It's really important. It's what you applied with to join Whatnot. So a lot of people applied as predominantly like car dealers or toy sellers, and then now sell clothes alongside it. I have applied 67,000 million times, and they're not accepting clothes sellers. There are people that are selling luxury on there, and I've also had them up on that, and apparently it's because they applied doing something else.
So if you're kind of more of an everything seller, or you were selling toys or cards or something that they were easily allowed, you get on the platform and then sell clothes. So for example, Chris, I'm guessing what he's saying is, I'm pretty sure he didn't apply as a clothing reseller.
As only a clothing
specifically, because I know he sells everything, to be fair. So I'm guessing that's the way he got in. I might be wrong, so please, Chris, tell us if not, because, you know, but I would say I'm guessing that's the way it's gone, because like you said, not only us, but I know a lot of people have tried as clothing resellers to get on the platform, and they just will come back to you at some point.
Yeah, that's what Michelle was saying in there as well. Simon's saying, I love to chat about work ethic. Let's go. Yeah, I like hearing about that. And everyone's work ethic's different. And there's not this whole thing of, I work harder than you because I do this. It has to work for you. And that's what I'm saying. And until they bring out the eBay diploma, then you can set your own thing. And Mark is saying there, set your own price, set your own standards with regards to, I guess, to everything really, with regards to your eBay store, or any platform you sell on, or even with your Posh Lives. You've got to set the price that you'll be happy with and set your own standards. There's no point someone saying you should start your auctions all at £40. Your items might not value £40. So you need to start with what's right for you. So that's the joy of it. Right, let me see if I've missed any questions. James asked another question. If you could, and this is one of my questions on the list as well. So if, for instance, tomorrow there came out a new law in the UK, you can only sell on one platform. And I'm going to put you on the spot here. So all the other platforms, the carpet is ripped from underneath you.
No, but people say there's a different thing.
Let's see what you say, because you might be slightly different. But what platform would you choose and why?
Go.
No, I don't know what I'd say.
You've got to. It's
as of right now, if there were only one platform to sell on, I would say Posh. And I say that, I'll give you a reason why I say that. Not because it's bigger or not because it's better than eBay, but right now, as regards, if I could sell every day on a live, and there were the amount of people, for example, and this is a hypothetical question anyway, so I'm giving you a hypothetical answer. If there were the same kind of amount of people that you had the attention of on eBay, I would pick Posh all day long. Because if you can name a platform, you can sell 50 items in an hour with profit. At this point, I'll be honest, I think it will become an issue for stock for us before sales, as in we need more stock than sales in Posh.
Yeah,
because I guess if you only had Posh, for instance, your focus would be 100% on that, and you would probably have more than one live show a day.
I would do a live show
every single day. Yeah. And also, I would say recently, I don't know if it's Posh, or I don't know if it's whatnot, but I know Chris from the Daily Refinement, he did 1,800 packages in one sale. Do
you know what it was Whatnot, I think he done that on. Yeah, it was Whatnot, because I remember I joined it, and because I joined it again just to see like the way he does it and what works. And the fact that he's like, right, we're going to do a giveaway. We're going to give away an iPad. I've got 18 iPads to give away. And he was asked a question, and he won't mind me sharing this. He asked a question, and he said, well, for me to give away that many iPads, that basically comes off effectively my cost of goods.
The profit, yeah, exactly.
But what that brings is loads of eyes to the platform and to come to try and win.
Marketing.
And they've got to buy to be entered. So people are spending money to win, to be entered to win the iPad. And
that
so
goes
it's
back
clever.
to
It's clever marketing.
That whole situation with marketing is a big thing in the Poshmark world at the moment. That man there, what he just did, because there are thousands, if not millions, of sellers on Whatnot in America, much bigger space than is here, right? And you have to stand out. So he has his following, right? He's Daily Refinement. He has his following, but he has to make his show stand out to new customers as well, because you can't just rely on your,
no one is that good in that respect, Yeah, of course.
So a great way to market yourself, obviously, is through giveaways. That's a self-marketing tool, and it goes back to the whole thing of like when Poshmark, like we're also desperate for Poshmark to do this mass marketing campaign and get thousands of buyers on the app, but with thousands of buyers comes thousands of sellers, and then you've got to stand out. We were technically the first Posh show on that.
We were the first live show, in the UK.
And we consistently run a show every single week. So instinctively, then the new sellers start coming on. They're going to see that we've got a show on every week, and we're on every week. So we've established a foothold or a footing in the application before these millions of people descend. And then it's going to be a lot easier for us to stand out than it will be with thousands of people having live shows at the same time as us. I think that it's a double not standard, but a double like problem.
Yes.
With bringing more people in, you're gonna have to make yourself stand out a whole of a lot more. And we're losing consistency now, not us, but people are losing consistency now. So what are you going to do when they all arrive?
And the thing is, like you just said, more so for me, with more and more people you're getting on board with Posh, it's a great thing in one way. But like you say, it also watered down. Like when we first started, we did our first show. I think there was maybe one every other day. Now today, for example, shout out Charlie, Pete and Lola, they did a back-to-back show which we did 100 items I think last week, and they did the same live from Maragos, which was an outstanding show, and they did really, really well, 10 out of 10, because it's graft. 3.5 hours they did, and they work every single week. They do 2 shows. But I'm saying today, with those guys, there was about 3 or 4 different shows. There's one tonight. There's one going on right now. What I'm saying is, just from in a few weeks' time, there's been that many extra coming on, and they haven't done this whole kind of mass marketing yet. So when this does happen, and they do kind of drop this many people on the app,
you better be ready, baby.
You got to be ready.
I think you're right there with the marketing, and before I go on to that, just going back to Chris as well, with regards to his show, he was doing that for 6 hours. So again, a lot of people see it as, do you know what? It's Chris, Daily Refinement, it's easy. And I've done the 24-hour streams. I've done it twice. But I can't imagine having that much energy for 6 hours. Like in the 24-hour streams, you've got other people talking. I'm not talking the whole time. I haven't got to keep the high buzz and high energy on them shows. You guys know, you do live selling. You've got to have the hype there. And when I was speaking to Mark about his shows as well, he says sometimes he'll finish the show and all his energy's gone because you put I've seen his shows. He's dancing around in his kilt with music on, and like all that energy you're giving, because that's what a good salesperson does. And so imagine doing that for 6 straight hours. It's graft. It's like you're saying there with Charlie, Pete and Lola, you know, going to do them shows back to back. You guys done 100-item show. Like, that is not just a half an hour or 2 hours job.
It was 4 hours.
All the stuff before, all the stuff after, 4 hours live, keeping that energy up. It's mental. And so honest, this is the thing, hard. A lot of people say it. Yeah. It's
hard work. And don't get me wrong, listen, we did it, we enjoyed it. But the truth, like you just said, after that, okay, yeah, that's great. Everyone's seen the show. If they enjoyed it, great. Well, happy days. You've sold some items, great, happy days.
Yeah.
You've got to go and then package 100 items, or maybe 50 if people have bought 2, you know, whatever. But I'm saying, like, as you saw, and that's why I bring that thing with Chris up, because I saw the packages, and we all know how it is to package maybe 20, 30, 100, whatever it might be. 1,800, I heard him say he had 8 people, 8 staff packaging with him because there was that many packages. That's just legendary. But what I'm saying is, regards live selling, regards Posh, and I know this isn't Posh, this is whatnot, but it's the same, because once again, in this country at the moment, it's
live selling. Clothing. It doesn't matter really what platform. It's the live selling aspect.
It's clothing live selling. I think what I'm trying to get at is there's possibilities, and I know Chris. He like there's eBay. There's loads of different platforms that they could be on. But the fact he's doing that and the live selling aspect is the back of his mind. You can't argue with the success.
Isn't that the reseller dream, to buy 50 items and sell them all in 2 hours? And then the next day you do the same thing. The next day you do the same thing. And the next day you do the same thing. And you do it every single day.
And the other thing which a lot of people mention, and this is maybe so obvious to a lot of people, but when we first did it, we looked at each other. We were like, okay, that went really well. Great, happy days. But we looked at each other. We were like, do you know what? We didn't photograph. We didn't. I mean, I steamed anyway because I wanted them to look a certain way. But we didn't list. Like, listing and photographing are the two things, to be fair, as resellers, as much as you might enjoy it, sourcing is so much more fun. Let's be honest, guys.
It's an admin task, isn't it? At the end of the day, that's what reselling becomes. It's the sourcing's the fun part. I enjoy the actual posting and selling the items because that's where you make your money. But the listing and stuff, it's admin. You just need to do it.
So imagine taking that out of the equation, and you sourcing 50 items today, going on tonight, selling 50 items, and all you got to do tomorrow is ship them and do it all over again the next evening. That's kind of the dream.
So Bethany, before we move on from Jamie's question again, your one platform, is it the same? Posh? If everything got taken away tomorrow?
I do like eBay. It's very in terms of eyes on product, it's in the UK at the moment, and in America, okay, it's second to none. It's the biggest platform.
It will always be.
To say like that I'd have to give it up tomorrow, I mean, I'd have to think about it. From the same perspective, I am not expert eBay reseller number 1. In fact, I would rank myself very low on the listings.
You're being harsh.
I'm trying to get better, and I'm working very hard to get better. But I see what it can do, and I'm fully aware of what it can do if you have the right practices and sort of like a skill set, if you will. However, it goes back to the part of me that is a reseller and a dealer.
I was just going to say that.
eBay's reselling and Poshmark live shows is dealing, because I can sell you the item. One thing that we have ingrained into our souls is that we are salespeople.
That's it.
That is
you're not collectors, you're not hoarders.
You have to take it back to the roots. And I was just going to say, as you were saying that, it made more sense in my brain why I was saying what I was saying. For me, like, as everyone knows, Bethany, like, she lists like a machine, in fairness. I don't, okay? But what I was going to say was our grounding was in luxury sales. So we've sold bags at 18, 19, 20,000 on the shop floor without thinking twice. I've done 22 pairs of Jimmy Choos in one go to a client.
I sold a Gucci saddle off the shop floor.
And how much was that?
250,000.
Okay, so these.
And you probably don't even think about it. It's just another sale.
No, because it's a sale. If you work in Tesco's and you sell eggs, that's how it is. the commission's nice, don't get me wrong, but the truth of the matter is it's sales. And when you're so good at, or we are, I don't like, you can blow your own trumpet, but we're good at sales. That's what we did. We got paid a lot to do it, right? That for us is a lot easier than sitting down and listing, 100 items. So when I say that, I'm not saying, and I'll say this again, because maybe live selling isn't for everyone. I'm saying that from our point of view, because I know how we can live sell. eBay for the right people would far surpass, in actual fact, live selling, because you can only do so many hours. Like, I'm sure even if you ask Chris, I know obviously the whole eBay thing is different maybe for him, but if they were eBay side by side, I'm sure he'd make more money doing eBay than at that point, hour for hour on a live selling. For us, it's just a different way of doing it.
Live shows the closest thing that you'll get to a real brick and mortar shop online. Yeah. It's a pop-up. Think of it like a pop-up shop every week.
Yeah. Do you know what? It is like, in a way, being at the car boot sale, but online. Yeah. That's effectively what it is when you look at it. And what I will say about Chris, and everyone knows I'm a huge fan of Chris, so I don't mind speaking about him, but when he got kicked off eBay, when he got banned from eBay, I remember the night it happened, because they'd done like a chat within the group, and everyone was worried, is the group going to end? Is that it, kind of thing? What's going to happen? And then Chris used the term of like, it's a disaster, but I'm a reseller. I'll find a way to pivot. And for me, if I got kicked off eBay tomorrow, okay, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. I'd probably go on a breakdown for the first couple of weeks before I would then find another platform, etc. But Chris quite quickly pivoted to another thing. And after his show he done at the weekend, or Friday it was, someone asked him about it today, like, oh, you packed orders now, I bet you're relieved. He was like, yeah, and I've got another X amount of thousand in, ready for my next show. So it's not like a lot of people make, he's probably done really well financially. He hasn't shared the finances, but he's probably done really well on that naturally as a reseller. Great. A lot of people will kind of say, right, do you know what? I'm good now. I can probably have a couple of weeks where I can kind of go on the go slow. He's like, next thing, and you know what, I've got another one after that, and that is the grind, and that's how you get to a certain level where his sourcing is very easy for him now, and he's like, all I've got to do is put on a great show and make sure the customers keep coming back. And that's the art of reselling.
I think that's the key. It just is a totally different medium, and I think like anything, maybe if you don't think it's for you, or maybe if it's something you don't want to do, and that's fine too. But as I say, everything we're saying tonight is based on how we feel and
of course
our look on it, our outlook, I should say. So in that respect, I totally get it, and we've done the same. I just said now, we were talking last night. Every show, like when we did the 100-piece show, bear in mind, like some people, and once again, this is no knock, but some people's stores are 100 pieces. Okay, there's not 100 items in some people's stores. If you have a 90-piece store, that's a good solid store. If they're going out every day and you're making real good money, happy days. What I'm saying is, but to put that into a show and then right next and another one and another one, we do it every week.
Yeah, it's just natural when you do it every week. And Chris makes a good point here, and what you guys mentioned this on your podcast as well. Shout out to podcast, A Hard Sell. If you don't subscribe to that, please go and do so as well. It helps a lot to have a following, though. Until the platform grows to a point, it doesn't matter. It does matter, I think, right now. So you guys said it doesn't matter with the following, and I kind of agree with you guys in that sense, because I know, again, speaking about Chris, he talks about the person on Posh in the US who is one of the best sellers on Posh. He does live shows, and openly she admits, and openly he's mentioned about, she hasn't got the biggest following. She hasn't got the greatest personality where it's so eccentric all the time. She just sells really good stuff. So I really believe, with regards to the live selling aspect, I feel you do have to have a bit of a personality about you. I think a following does help to some extent, but not as much as I believe people think it does. But I think if I was to come on there and I was to say, oh, here's my Burberry handbag, it's original, we're going to start the bin at £5, people are not going to care whether I'm like, guys, look at this amazing. They're like, well, that's a steal.
I mean,
you're going to get bids on it.
Go.
So I think the following helps with regards to maybe promoting the live shows, etc.
Of course,
is the way I see it. So if you're on Instagram and you're plugging your live show on a Saturday night, you're probably going to get a lot more if I just went live randomly on a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. So I think that's
what's important, I think, is that we had the first live show on Posh, and we had the first live show on Posh. Posh didn't know who we were. Oh, trust, they had no idea, like, that we had any people even on Instagram or whatever, right? And they did a beta thing. It was like a group chat. We had to do like certain activities to get best to ship, which included sharing, etc.
Which was graft.
Which was hard work. I was one of the first to finish that. I then we went to every single posh party they put on. We drove to Birmingham, we did Bristol, we did London, we did what was the other one? There was another one. We went to every single one, and I spoke to the people, I talked to the people. I was the last person to leave and the first person to get there at every event. And then they said they booked in the live things and we were set to be first, and they decided they were going to do it a day later, which would push us back to the back of the sort of waiting list, if you will. And I emailed that woman. I said, I am being first, and that is the end of the conversation.
We grafted that hard.
So I worked extremely hard to get in that position. So we didn't get a first posh show because we're the luxury pickers. No one cares.
And if that were the case, being really honest, and I'm going to say this because it's the honest truth, if that were the case, it was down to our following. And I don't disagree with Chris Nestor.
Chaddy P would have had it.
Chaddy P has 26, 27, 28,000 subs. We have like not even 5. So if that was, I don't say like Chris says in the chat there, I don't disagree that it doesn't help because you can post it via social media and get people in. What I'm saying is though, if it was solely based on a following, well then surely the guys, even George Ross on Poshmark, he's
joined recently. I saw he's joined recently. I'm waiting for his first show. Yeah, I'm waiting for his first show.
But he could have. And I'm not knocking George. I like George, and we speak to him quite regularly. But what I'm saying is, he didn't. So if it was just based on following, they would have plucked him and said, George, you're going to do this for us. It wasn't that. It was graft. And George will tell you that too, you know?
No, I completely agree. And I think like I said, then the promotion on Instagram goes a long way. And I do it a lot. I promote as much as I can on Instagram about YouTube without it becoming, I hope my Instagram followers don't see it as that, without it becoming too much, because sometimes you can just go blah 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 blah, and I wind up Michelle a lot of the time, and I'm like, oh Michelle, every time you speak to me you mention Posh, every time. And she does it because she's passionate about it, and I joke with her. But imagine Michelle was posting every Instagram story was Posh show, Posh show, Posh show, Posh show. People are like, oh, all she does is say that. Same for you guys, you know, you promote your shows but you don't just talk about it, which is good as well. So
I think as well with us, even more so with the high-end stuff, I guess, or the luxury stuff, people have said to us before they feel more comfortable buying from us because of who we are. Now that I totally get and totally take on board, but by the same token, we've worked very hard to become the luxury pickers because in those industries for years. So that, once again, it's not down to luck, or it's not down to kind of who I know. It's down to us grafting for years in that industry.
Let me catch up on some of the chat. I've got so many questions I'm going to get through to you guys because I've got many. I've literally made. No, you're good. I've literally made like 2 pages of questions because I'm like, I've got so much to pick from you guys. Auction Mum is saying, Jess, I don't know why I call you Auction Mum. Jess is saying, also need people around you who understand. You can believe in you and what you do, but when others don't understand, it can be deflating. That's why this community is so important. And I agree. I think that's not just the reseller community. It's also family. I think support family wise. And I must admit, when I first started reselling, I think a lot of people in the family probably didn't tell me to my face, but probably thought, oh, it's a bit of a stopgap, he'll go back to recruitment. And you know what, I would say YouTube was a bit more, because when I started putting out YouTube videos, obviously straight away family follow you to support you to get you the first initial 10-15 subs. But I think a lot of people thought I would try it and I'd be like, I can't be bothered, because I always said I haven't got time for YouTube, I can't be bothered to do it. And I think, like with anything, once you start getting to a certain level, and I'm not saying about me on YouTube at a certain level or anything, but I'm talking about in your business, once people are seeing that you are succeeding, you've been doing it for, like for me now, 2 odd years, people actually start seeing that, oh, okay, he must be doing well because he wouldn't be doing it otherwise. He couldn't afford to do it otherwise. So I think that's right. I think people around you, having supportive people around you, but I think part of that is down to you as well, because there's going to be people who doubt you. And it's kind of you to kind of show them, like, do you know what? Like, I'm going to make sure in a year's time or 2 years' time, you're the one coming up to me and being like, oh, how do I get into this reselling malarkey? Because again, I've had people down the co-op shop even yesterday say to me, like, oh, how do you become a reseller? I want to get into it. And I'm like, no, there's too many resellers in my area. So you stay there. Do it. Leanne is saying, I think the fun part is actually building a sustainable business. I did that with the menswear factory. I loved it, but having massive rent rates, plus, VAT plus staff, HR wages added too much pressure. Yeah, I think that's the thing with brick and mortar as well. I think all the extra rates involved does cause that. I mean, with your eBay store, you kind of have the eBay fee. And then you've got all of the stuff you're selling basically is what you're earning effectively, the profit wise. But you haven't got so many overheads. I mean, I've got the 2 garages. If you have a warehouse, you have the warehouse. You have whatever you have them overheads. But it's nothing to like own in a brick and mortar store.
I think for a lot of people with a brick and mortar, what a lot of people forget, there's normal things like you would do with warehouse electric, with Wi-Fi if you need it, or whatever, or gas, or whatever it might be. The other thing with a brick and mortar building, especially more so an actual commercial property storefront, if you want, is for us, for example, our last building, you get rate relief in most places now, so the council will help with the percentage of rates. If it's a small enough shop, they'll actually give them to you free as long as you apply through the proper channels. For us, our building was so large, and the fact we could physically pay it, their opinion was, well, they can obviously afford to pay something. Our rates, I think we paid like 66% of our rates or something, and this was thousands a month. Yeah. Just rates. This isn't rent, this is rates. And I don't think a lot of people understand when you talk about brick and mortar, the rent is like this. The rent of a shop is this in comparison. Unless you have a very small shop, and it totally is helped out with regards a rate relief program, I don't think people understand the amount involved in that. And I would say to anyone, I'm not putting them off it, for sure, do it. If you can think you can do. But I'm saying, I think there's things you have to think about more so when just kind of taking on a shop. It's not, a lot of people think about it like a fancy warehouse, and it's very different.
George is saying going from being in the red to now in the black is the best feeling. Absolutely, I agree, and you've got to be proud of that, mate, because you've done that yourself. No one's done that for you. That's hard work. So well done.
Good man.
Epic Petal says hello. Good to see you in. Oh my God, someone told me about the CSM Facebook page. It's absolutely disgusting. Yeah. Michelle saying, how dare you spend money in a charity shop? Yeah, stop spending your money. Benji's saying here, sorry, I think every single one of your videos had value, as every time someone new tunes in, they learn so much information. And I will 100% second that, because like we spoke a while ago, and one of the early conversations we had, when I first got into clothing, I got a Stone Island t-shirt, and I remember sending it to you, and you come back to me, and you guys are great, because like I'd hardly spoken to you, and I said, look, sorry to basically disturb you, but what do you think of this? Do you mind helping? And you guys come back to me so quickly. And Austin, you were basically saying to me, it's a fake shirt and this is why, blah, blah, blah. And I said to you, oh, it's all right, I'll just keep it for myself. You go, you can't do that. You've just put on your Instagram saying that the luxury pickers have confirmed it's fake. But for me, I don't care rocking a fake Stony. But it brings me on nicely to one of my questions. Your knowledge is incredible. And I'd say that genuinely. And when I saw you in person, I said, you know what I like about you guys is anyone can ask you anything in a way, and you'll normally know the answer. But if you don't know the answer, you'll be honest with that as well. So how do you stay on top of all that? Because things are constantly evolving, things are constantly changing. So do you watch certain people yourself? Are you inspired by other people? Or how do you keep on top of like trends, etc.? Is it who you follow on Instagram? How do you go about that?
I'm really big into social media, not from like a lot of people say, oh, I've wasted like all day on social media on Instagram, and if I waste all day on Instagram, I'm like, I've learned a couple of things, I guarantee it. I absorb my whole life around popular culture. Like, I can tell you who Taylor Swift's dating, but I can also tell you exactly what Taylor Swift wore to said date, the years in which the pieces are from, and how much they resell for. Because
I'm going to stop you there. So Taylor Swift is currently seeing an American football player. Okay, she's
got a new boyfriend, isn't she?
Yeah. And his brother, there's 2 brothers who play American football, but their brother is Machine Gun Kelly, the rapper. Okay. Yeah. So the funny thing about this is why this is funny to me is we were having this conversation earlier, and Bethany actually said that the prices or the amount of jerseys sold from this specific team, which they're a big team, but have gone up how many percent?
400%. Now, I would just told you in 5 seconds, it's not my field, but if you see a Travis Casey, whatever team he plays for, jersey, you're going to sell it instantly because he's going out with Taylor Swift.
I was going to say, is it all the Swift? Is it all the Swifties buying jerseys?
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
But
it's knowing that.
It's been constantly, so London fashion, like fashion weeks in general are so important. If you're selling fashion to a point where so I would say more women's fashion than men's fashion, because men are sticklers of habits. They're just funny dog creatures. But women in general, Fashion Week is where you're going to learn what you're going to be reselling next year, guaranteed. So Kylie Jenner's just done the campaign for Acne Studios. The whole capsule collection is draped grunge. Okay, that's how I describe it.
I heard grunge is coming back.
Yeah, so you'll be selling that. So if you've got anything in your wardrobe now, I'm not saying you have, but if you've got any Acne Studios, list it. Firstly, because it's the brand.
We've been talking about acne for years now, but like specifically right now, yes, it's everywhere.
Secondly, anything that's draped or grungy is going to sell because people want the look before the collection comes out next year. So anything the collection won't come out until next year.
Anything kind of Kurt Cobain vibes, kind of 94, 93, 92, that era.
Yeah, and it just everything is a ricochet. So things that high-end fashion houses were doing last year are now just dripping into her fast fashion. So if you're a year ahead of fast fashion, then you already know what's going to be on trend next year or whatever, and you'll see a noticeable difference in sales. At the moment, ballerina flats are like the thing to buy in high street brands because last year Miu Miu reintroduced the iconic early 2000s pink satin ballet pump. So it all goes round.
It's cyclical.
It's a thing, but I absorb myself with social media, and I think it's really important. Even if you just do I know because you can get sucked into watching cute dogs kissing ducks or something.
Oh yeah, I'm guilty.
But if you can absorb yourself for a second, even if you hate Taylor Swift or you don't like Kylie Jenner, it doesn't matter. It's your job. In terms of resale, there's a lot of clothing I don't like. I only wear black, for example. So there's a lot of things that I sell that I would never let touch my body, but it is my job to keep up to date with what is happening in fashion. The sales of Chanel after the Barbie film was brought out because Barbie's whole wardrobe is Chanel. Went up. The necklace that she wears, it's all pearls and Chanel logos. That was from the 1998 archives, and it's £2 million or something.
So even if you have a dupe of that pink jacket she wore, it was a Zara version. That's my point. So,
but this is the thing with you guys. You are constantly thinking about these kind of things before the event. So you knew that Barbie film was coming out. So a lot of people will just be like, "Oh, the Barbie film's coming out. That's cool." But your brains go to the Barbie film's coming out. This is what could be linked to it. This is the stuff we should be maybe sourcing now because when that film comes out, it's going to be hot. So it's that kind of knowledge.
Before Barbie came out, we had an actual two-piece Chanel suit, a jacket, a tweed pink, and the skirt. And it was a smaller size, which is usually a lot harder to sell with Chanel because when they're very, very small sample sizes almost, as much as any size can wear Chanel, it's not necessarily the core demographic, okay, size-wise. So when we had it, and as soon as we'd seen that there was a whole collection being brought, the vintage collection being brought to our archive for Barbie, before the film was even finished, right? We put it up. And within about a week of it being live, the actual film, we sold it. And this was like a $2,000 set. Do you know what I mean? This was cheap. There was a $2,000 set gone. And I'm not saying everyone has to spend all their time searching Vogue or whatever else. But what I'm saying is, I said this the other day to someone else, if you ever watched the film Devil Wears Prada, if you haven't, go and watch it, especially if you're into fashion. The whole turquoise belt thing, when she explained that basically the kind of the main character, the editor, she explains that although you think this belt is so insignificant, the actual color, the shade, the style, the leather, everything is so important on it. So when it actually filters down to kind of high-end high street or high street level, or even then from our point of view, somewhere like Primark, it filters down, and eventually you'll see those colors or those styles in there. And if you know at the first stage 2 years before why that was so important, you can intercept in between and you can get on it before anyone's even thinking about it, and that's when you win.
It's interesting. And then there's developments with leather and authenticating techniques, which when I say that, a lot of companies that sell pre-owned high-end goods use machines. Now, these machines are really cool. They're really cool. They scan the leather or the material, and they basically have an archive search. So it goes all the way through the leather to the base material, and it basically scans the fibers to see if they match with the database. Well, there are very advanced companies that make fake handbags out of real material. what's a machine going to do in that instance, for example? So then Chanel started microchipping their handbags. So all new handbags are microchipped as standard from Chanel, so they don't have the serial numbers, etc. There, you can scan them at a Chanel store, etc., and you can tell if they're, you know, like a Certi logo. But Certi logos, don't get me started on Certi logos. The Certi logos, right? If you can fake a £25,000 handbag, you can fake a little tiny logo on a label that scans to a website.
They'll find a way to fake it.
They do it. It's now. When we went on holiday, we went to Corfu Town.
I might release that as a video. I've got footage of that.
We went to Corfu Town, and you have to be like, pretend you're really interested, and they let you in their little side doors with the mirrors.
They've got like proper shops.
And she was showing me these Palm Angels, right, with the QR codes that scan to Palm Angels websites, and then the Stone Island ones scan to the authentic notification on a Stone Island site.
They're getting smart, aren't they? They're getting smart.
The thing is with this as well, which is kind of more weird, is eBay just bought Certi logo. So they own Certi logo now. I don't know if you knew that. And that tells you, like, eBay have their own authentication kind of setup. But when they're buying people like these kind of authenticating, not bodies necessarily, but systems, it tells you the route eBay are going. And that's a massive move for them. And a sidebar to what we were saying. But yeah, the thing about those machines as well is almost nearly all kind of high-end counterfeits will use very like materials, right? So there's a good chance they could be an authentic material in their eyes. You also have issues with archival pieces or pieces from vintage 20 years plus. They don't have, if they were foremade of an item, for example, Bethany's having Pepsi, why not? If they have the kind of these pieces from an archive when there were 4 or 5 pieces made specifically, and those pieces are the higher cost pieces, there is no way in the world, if 4 or 5 exist in the universe, there is no way that they can have reference, especially when they're an external company from Chanel or Hermes. Hermes aren't going to give them the information, the data. They have to scan them. So if there's only 4 or 5 pieces, explain to me, and these are locked away in people's collections, explain to me how they're going to actually scan these pieces. The answer is they don't, and they get it as good as they can. Nothing is foolproof. No one is foolproof. The fact of the matter is, if you're going to pay for a technology like that, you've got to understand that it's not 100%.
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
It's a help.
To aid authentication. It's not a authentication method.
But like you're saying there, Bethany, with them bags that were scanning through to the Stone Island site or to the Palm Angel site, and they're kind of coming back to the normal untrained eye in a way. Like me, if I was to go there and they show that, I would believe, oh yeah, do you know what, it's legit, and do you know what, it's a lot cheaper than I can get it in the UK or whatever. So if eBay using the same kind of system, there is still going to be things that do slip through that net. And like you're saying there, and it's the same as like shoe authentication with eBay. I'm sure there's been many a pair of shoes that are now worn by a customer who's kind of got that eBay seal of approval, but actually they are fake still. So you're right, it's always going to be the odd few that slip through the net.
There's not a marketplace in the UK right now that isn't riddled with unauthentic goods.
I'd agree. Yeah. Now the difference is, though, and I will say, you got to shout out eBay for their dues with this. I think what they're trying to do.
Oh, shouting out eBay.
That was the whoop whoop to eBay.
That was a whoop whoop, a universal language that we understand. No, do you know what? It was more the fact that now they kind of, at certain levels, cost-wise, they will kind of physically have to authenticate them. Now that I appreciate because Bethany have been doing this for the longest time, and no one else really does. But the fact eBay feel it necessary to actually do that and spend that volume of money doing that, with all due respect, eBay, that tells you that there was a problem, and there's a problem they're trying to have less of an issue for them. But the fact they would do that and spend all this money on all these things worldwide, because once again, we're not just talking about eBay UK, we're talking about the US, we're talking about all of the different countries which carry eBay. So for them to spend that money and do that for every item over 200, or over 500, or whatever it might be in your specific category, it means that it was a problem. And I mean, back in the day, you used to use music. I remember we would buy items cheaply on eBay to resell. Right, this is going back like years and years and years now. And what you'd see in the photos was 100% authentic item. Yep. It would come, you'd have a shabby fake, or sometimes a decent fake, which most people wouldn't recognize, because even back then, the item you're looking at on the pictures was an authentic item. They probably stole the pictures. Maybe they had the item but were sending you a fake, whatever it might be. What you got was a very different thing. Now, most people, I remember years ago, there used to be an authenticator in the States, a place you'd send photographs and they'd say yay or nay. And we used them years and years and years ago when we first started, right, for specific kind of real Uber high-end pieces. And they'd send a thing saying, yeah, authentic back. Well, of course they would. The photos I'm sending them from the website were authentic. Yeah. I get the item and I've technically had this authenticated. Well, that's not the item. And a lot of people, till they come to sell it, don't know that. So even things like that, what eBay doing now, that'll help kind of combat that, hopefully.
And with trainers, I think it's great because they started, I think, with the trainers. I believe they might have implemented it for handbags now, or they're going to be doing so. They have, yeah. But with trainers, what I like, it's at such a low monetary level as well. It's £100. But really even good. if I have my trainers listed up at £120 and someone makes me an offer of £70 and I accept, they still go through authentication. Great. Because it's your original price they're based on. I think that is brilliant because for a lot of people, £100, for me, it's a lot of money. And when you're receiving something, at least eBay are going to physically be able to open it, feel the item, see the item. And they probably have got some trained staff there. And I've seen some of the videos on TikTok of people when they authenticate shoes. It's great. So, yeah, it's an extra step they've put in. Alma saying, luxury pickers, your knowledge blows my mind, as it does mine. And it's made me want to up my game and actually make time to improve my knowledge. Thanks for the inspiration.
Oh, thank you.
I completely agree. Let me just see if we've got any more questions. Everyone's talking about how awful these charity shops are to you, and I completely agree on that as well.
Thank you.
I'm a bit afraid to admit to my local charity shop that I'm looking for clothes to resell. Bargain hunt girl, believe it or not, if you go in that charity shop every single day, they probably know you're a reseller.
Yeah.
And that's what my one said to me. They're like, you're in here every day. And I had to tell them, I said, yeah, I resell. And they're like, yeah, we knew.
Most don't mind. I think it's the camera thing which bugs most people, in fairness. I will say that. So as a regular reseller, don't stress. It's not a thing.
Yeah, let me just see if I have missed any questions or anything. Oh, here we go. This is a good one. There's something happening at Bristol Posh. Not sure what though. Bethany, any ideas?
Well, 18th of October,
I've heard about this.
18th of October is a Poshmark event that they hold, and they hold little events across the UK where you can go and try live selling. You can go and chat with other people who are selling on Poshmark. This one happens to fall just before my birthday, so it is also an unofficial birthday party.
But just to clarify, Bethany's co-branded it as her unofficial birthday party, and because they generally have quite a good bar setup, shall we say? Because I wouldn't want to post that on the internet; that would be bad, right? But because of that, if you can get a ticket, there might be a case where Bethany's unofficial birthday party might be kind of co-branded, if you will.
There will be cake.
So I was going to say, is it Bethany's birthday first and then the Posh event second?
As long as Posh aren't watching, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Them Nuggets reselling, and I think you guys have recently joined Posh, if I remember, because I do follow people on the gram. Completely agree with comments on Posh. Oh, well done, guys. Completely agree with comments on Posh. It's underrated. Such great fun too. Winner, winner. Well, please plug when your next live is in the live chat if you're still with us, because I'm happy to shout out. But well done for doing your live. And there we are. Hi, guys. Just sub to your channel. Oh, if you guys have a YouTube channel, I will also sub to you guys as well afterwards. Let me make a note so I don't forget.
Yeah, do.
Nuggets reselling. And as always, guys, anyone who has a social media following either on Instagram or YouTube, if you want to plug it in the side chat, George is in with us still. Just put it in there. You've got a channel and we'll get George to link it. Let's share all your channels in tonight as well. Tommy Trades is in. Just got off work. Well, you should have left work early, Tommy, but good to see you, mate. Right, we're getting some more people. I love today's hat. Yes, the famous hats, both of the hats actually. Let's have a look here. Just scrolling in case we've missed any questions. Kate says, "Hey, Pickers and James, Bethany hat game is on point as always. I need to start wearing a hat. If I knew you were both going to be rocking hats, I mean, I knew Bethany was definitely going to be rocking the hat. But if I knew, I would have pulled that hat.
One of your latest videos, and I said that's a solid move, James.
I'll tell you now, they really do not suit me. I can't pull it off. I think it's the glasses cap. I think of all my contacts, I might be able to pull it off, but with the glasses, they definitely don't. There we are. Simon's plugged his channel straight away. Simon and Michelle, are having a bit of a friendly competition on who can get to the 1,000 subs first of all. Now, I love them both dearly, so I'm not going to choose my winner. But if you go and sub to Simon's channel right there, all right, and don't worry about Michelle's for now. No, I'm joking. Both great channels, so please go and have a look at them as well. Right, I've got some questions for you guys here. Let's talk a little bit about something I spoke to you both about at the eBay Open, your authentication service, which I am extremely grateful for. I mentioned it earlier with the Stone Island. I think I've come to you guys, maybe one other thing, but I speak to many people, reseller Polly Sam, who got a great charity shop find. And when I met her at the car boot sale, she actually played Bethany's voice note, which was just so funny to listen to. But you guys offer this service free of charge. And I said to you guys, and I don't mind saying to people at the Open, you guys should be charging for this service. So talk a little bit about the service and yeah, why don't you charge for it? It might be a bit controversial, but I think you should charge for it.
We considered we ran it quite early on in our sort of like
career,
like Instagram. I'm big on it. I love Instagram. Instagram's my thing, right? So we offered it quite early on, and what we found were a series of issues in terms of just not I wouldn't say taken advantage of, but like a lot of people were using us and like not telling people they were using us and sort of like saying that they found this or whatever. We also started it because I see at least a handful of fake goods being shown in hauls or shown on stories or on grids a day as authentic. And like obviously we all get really excited when we find things in the wild, and we're really hoping for like a payday on that, and it's great. I totally get it.
On that point, please call me out if you ever see me post anything. Please, I'd rather you message me and say, James, that's fake, get it off your grid.
Someone actually messaged me and I actually said I don't know if people want us to tell them. I don't know 100%. If that's like taking it, and I actually had someone message me and said basically just concentrate on yourself and leave other people alone. So I sort of like, I was a bit like,
and that's what things people don't see,
So we started the authentication to, if anyone wanted it, they could have it.
It was almost like an amnesty, when like if something bad happens and they kind of say, okay, well, bring the bad stuff in and we can get rid of it for you, blah. So for us, it was like, look, if you're not sure, message us. And once again, yourself, if we do it, it's not like we don't expect, we've said before, it would be nice for someone to put a story and say, thanks guys. And people do, they're really, really good. The people are great. But if you just want to say, look, I'm not sure about this, but I'd rather if you kept it between us, I'm not going to say, well, I'm not doing it now then. Like, cool, no problem. I get it. I understand. Let's do it.
But I actually find it really fun. We
did
take a break from it because it was getting a bit much. Like people are genuinely just shouting at us.
We had to clear the backlog.
I remember the time.
Yeah, so we did start again, and we were considering in that time period to start charging. And do you know what? We took a time off, and I just said to Austin one day, I think we were in this room, I just said to him, I'm not going to charge because I'll tell you for why. Because firstly, the amount of people asking for authentications will go significantly down, because when we have something for free, of course, we're going to use it and take advantage of that service. That means for me that I'm just going to be staring at fakes on people's stories, and it irks me a little bit. That's a personal problem. That's not anyone else's problem. And I said the whole point of us, I always say this was our year off when we stopped the shops and started going into social media and stuff. I said it was our year off, and a year off I wanted to be able to offer something.
Help,
because what the reselling community is offering me for a year is basically like
everything
therapy. It's like an unknown therapy because no one knows they're doing it. But from the same point, I needed a year off to just sort of like regather myself as a human. So I wanted to be able to offer something and bring value. If you watch any like big boy, like motivational people like Gary Vee or anyone like that, the biggest thing that they say
is a church minister, like the truth
to bring value. Like if you put out 15 pieces of content a day, that's what Mr. Gary Vee says, that have value and someone can take something away or learn something, then that is what I want to do. I think like when we did the summit last year, which is on again in March, big up summit.
Oh, but by the way, can we just pause for a second there? congratulations on being asked to speak at the summit again, and
Thank
I
you.
cannot wait to come and see you guys speak live.
Are you coming? Yeah.
Because I'm 100% coming this year,
Good.
and do you know
Awesome.
what? There's so many good speakers. I'm going to shout out a few who I can think top of my head. Apologies to the others I've missed. You guys can add them in. But Michelle, Karim Fuzzy Feet, who I loved meeting at the car boot sale. What a guy. And he's been on one of my lives as well. We've got you guys. We've got, I'm going to say, reseller Dan. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
Selling Dan, yeah.
Selling Dan.
Is it Shell? I want to say Shelly T. Have I made up that name?
No, reseller T.
Reseller T.
Talia.
Reseller T. Why am I thinking Shelly T? Anyway, who have I missed? Let's shout out the people who are speaking.
There's also
so far.
ABL. Everyone knows ABL from YouTube.
ABL, yeah.
He's a legend.
Becky's Bazaar is big on the
Becky's Bazaar.
Yeah.
There's obviously
great.
Shell, and you also have Pooh and Daz, which does kind of they do kind of
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah. Big shout out to Daz. I messaged him the other day actually. And there's a new announcement coming at 7 o'clock this evening. So no
Tonight,
spoilers if
so
you
in like
guys know.
5-6 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, people don't know.
big
Sorry,
up the
carry
Sun.
on. I just want to big up you guys as well because I can't wait to hear you guys speak.
You were saying, do you know, we just were on the summit because you got me now. Just were on the summit. I will say, like, I know last year there was loads of controversy about tickets and everything else. We've all been there. We've all heard it. Fine. I will say, Pete and Lola went out on a limb, and this isn't a love post. This is just how I feel, okay? But they went out on a limb when people weren't 100% necessarily in on it. There'd never been anything done like that. It was the first of its kind. We were more than happy to be part of it, not only because we got a lot of time and respect for Pete and Lola, but also because we love to be involved in anything which can give value or help in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was saying. I remember what I was saying.
Hit it on before I go.
So I was saying that a lot of people said to me that I like have the biggest respect for in the world, that there's nothing I can learn. A lot of people said that I can't learn anything from the people that are talking, perhaps because based on eBay figures and not actually looking at my bank account, that some people weren't 6-figure sellers or whatever, right? Which is totally cool. Cool because, you know, it is what it is. But do you know what? I guarantee you, I can't teach you about how to list something on eBay. I probably can't. You could probably do it 7 billion times better than I could ever do it. In fact, I learned from watching people like Shell and people like you and people like Simon, etc. But I guarantee you I can teach you something about authentication or about a high-end brand or brands to look out for or the resale of fashion, different fashion pieces throughout history, etc., so on and so forth. You can learn something everywhere. And I think ultimately I wanted to be able to offer authentication because I don't want people to have to pay for my knowledge when I can literally look at a picture and go, this is from 2003, it's £160 from Kate Middleton wore it and, to someone's wedding. I can do that like as easy as breathing. Yeah. It's not a chargeable thing for me. I think ultimately it might have to be at some point.
Well, the truth of the matter is, if the volume is there, we either have to say, okay, we stop, which once again was the debate a couple of months ago, whether we stop or not, or we say we can charge. We're going to charge minimal fee just because otherwise we physically can't take the time out of our day to do it, right? And that would be the only reason. But just going back quickly to the summit, what I would say is that more often than not, everyone I've spoken to, no, it's not more often than not, anyone I've spoken to who is there, firstly, and maybe because it's me, maybe they wouldn't want to, but I haven't heard anything bad from the people who went. If there was any negative, it was before the actual thing happened, right? And that was because it was an opinion. Anyone who went, whether they took away nothing as regards reselling, they took away a memory, they took away some information on something else, they took away a friend, they took away... Some of the guys, just to clarify, speaking this year, like, they've done amazing things, and they've said it themselves because of the summit. And took things further. They've made friends. They've made
YouTube channels.
Like it's a mad amount of. It's not just if you want a seminar, go somewhere else. Like from my opinion, it's not that you don't want to listen to the people talking, but there are business seminars all over the world. This isn't it. It's so different. And the reason I feel passionate about it is because not only we're part of the first one, but when you see the work involved to get it to where it is even today. Because most people, in fairness, it's not their business to. They just see tickets on sale. You buy a ticket, you don't. You go, you don't. That's
a lot of work goes into actually putting it together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, fair play to them for doing that.
I think when you see that, maybe I take it a little bit more personal because we were there. But I also say, everyone, please show me someone who said they had a terrible time and learned nothing. You know, there was something good they took away, and even just a vibe. Like, I think even meeting you at the eBay Open, and I'll give eBay the juice for this, I didn't take much away from the actual information given there. I'm going to be honest with you. But you know what? We had one of the best days out to meet everyone and speak to so many great people and learn so many things. Yes. Different. And that's one of those things that, funny enough, Luke, I know Luke a couple of weeks ago, he said he's not a big fan. I said this to him on a voice note recently. He's not the biggest fan of kind of these meetups or going to these kind of paid events and whatever else. And when we spoke, and we spoke of literally over lunch about Ralph Lauren, of all the things, there he is. And I said to him, I said, the funny thing is, this is what people don't get about, like, if you've never been to one or think maybe you can't take anything away from it. Sometimes it's the weirdest thing. We had a conversation when we were eating potatoes about Ralph Lauren. And I'm sure if he's still in the chat.
They were good potatoes, by the way. I just want to say
they were great potatoes.
Yeah.
But he said he took something away. I definitely did from him. Like, what I'm saying is, it's not necessarily, okay, so you do this and this is going to make you £1 million. It's not that. Sometimes they can come in a lot of different forms. I urge anyone who didn't go last year, just give it a whirl, because at worst you'll come away and have had a great day.
Darn it.
Do you know what I
mean? There's a plug for the summit. It was on the list, actually, because I did have it on here to mention you guys. I saw that announcement. But Lucy, please subscribe to Lucy as well. She's close to 700 subscribers, so let's try and get her there. Give Lucy a little push. I said posh. I'm reading it. Tommy says, I'm not a posh seller. Would I still be able to attend the event? I'm going back up to this guy up here. Simon attended the event, and I remember in the WhatsApp chat, he was sloshed. He had a great time. Go to the event. It's Bethany's birthday, so that's even more.
Yeah, you can for sure. You just go to their website, or you might have to download the app at most. But when you do, you can actually, but you have to book tickets to Eventbrite.
Yeah, it's on Eventbrite. Just Poshmark Bristol, something like that.
You can book 2 tickets, and I don't think you have to have a Posh account, or you're going to start.
No, because you might want to join.
Maybe so. Harry says, great conversation, been really good. Well, I appreciate you coming in. I appreciate you moving away from Instagram and coming onto YouTube. We did say it was going to be on YouTube, Harry, but we'll let you off for missing the first 10. Dem Nuggets, there we are. So George is posting some of the links. So if you've got a channel, please drop it in there. Yes, we're still here. This is why we started at 5 o'clock, because I can talk for England. And
you met your match, my friend.
Austin could talk for England. And when we were sitting together actually planning this last Thursday, we did say we better start early just because we both can talk. So, George is not a mod on here. I haven't done the new mods. Sorry, mate. I'll make you mod. Let me just see here. Do not just concentrate on yourself. I don't know what part of the conversation this is.
Authentications.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say with that, actually, do you guys have a buy me a coffee link?
No, I did consider it because you have one, don't you? I felt inspired by your buy me a coffee.
Please get one, because thanks to the people who have kindly sent money to that, mainly during the 24-hour lives, I'm really grateful. I put that towards my running trainers the other day. So you guys are actually getting me fit. Really so cool. you don't spend it on coffee, but it might be good to get yourself that link just to kind of let people know that, because I know if I come to you guys with authentication, even if you said to me it's fake, you'd never come back and just say, James, it's fake. It's, the reasons behind it is this stitching's wrong here. You need to look for this tag. You educate me. So in the future, I shouldn't have to come to you on the same kind of item again. And so I would love to be able to say, let me send you a coffee for your time.
We appreciate that. So that's the other thing which we try and do, though, with those messages as well. I think that's why they take us so long to get through, I'm going to be honest, is because we don't just want to say no, fake. Because that doesn't help anyone. Giving you people the information so next time they'll know why it's fake is the key.
Yeah. So you don't make educated choices next time.
Yeah.
Mark's the same as what I said earlier. If you ever see me advertising any fakes, I mean, I got as I mentioned earlier, I got the 700 jacket at a car boot sale, and I sent it to 2 people just with the tags quickly, just to say this is definitely legit, isn't it? They're both 100%. And I knew it was, but sometimes you need that extra person just to kind of give you the extra thumbs up. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm the same. Always definitely tell me. Here we go. You guys were highly recommended to me when I had questions about a fake pair of shoes, and your willingness to help combined with your knowledge and views are absolutely unmatched.
We actually answered that one when we were in a beach bar.
That is that is absolute commitment, and they still gave you the correct answer even at the beach bar, because I'll be absolutely.
It could have gone sideways, really, couldn't it?
I'll be absolutely. There we are. Where is the Reseller Summit being advertised? Is it just Chatty Beach channel? There is a Instagram with the Resell Summit now as well. So again, if someone can link that in,
they've got a website.
I'm not sure if they've got any admins. Okay, what's the website just for people to jump on
www.reseller.
No, don't lie.
Reseller Summit.
Let me just
let's.
The resellersummit.com. Tickets go on sale October 27th. I do know that.
I'm going to give it away live just because why not? They've just released who's speaking today at 7 o'clock, and
who is it?
We'll all be in total shock. Mr. Chaddy Pete himself. He's in
no way. What he's been allowed to speak at his own summit?
He is indeed.
Surely not. Oh,
there you go.
Fantastic news.
Yeah. Sorry, it's www.resellsummit.com. So yeah.
Lovely. What I will do at the bottom of this video after we finish and it uploads, I will include obviously your guys' links, but I'll also include that link as well for people who want to jump on it and find out more. I met a friend at the summit I speak to pretty much every day, worth every penny of that £50. And that's what I've realised from this community. And like I know people always say you drone on about the data refinement group, but that's what I've realised by being in that group as well. I've made friends from that group.
There you go.
And a lot of them were there the other day, and it was nice to actually go to an event and not feel like you're walking into a place and being like, who's going to actually speak to me today? To have some people there you can kind of link and speak to.
Exactly.
So I agree. Even going to these kind of events, you're going to take snippets of information away. But if you're expecting to go to a kind of event like you would say for Alex Hormozi and you pay £1,000 to get a ticket, it's probably not going to be that kind of thing. But I guarantee you'll learn more at this event than you will. Well, from me, going to the eBay Open, I hardly took anything away learning-wise. No. So I reckon you go to these events and hear people who are doing it day in, day out, you're going to learn some stuff as well.
You meet people from different circles as well. Like when we started Posh, we were really excited about it, obviously. And I met Shell Resells from Poshmark. I probably wouldn't have spoken, no offense, Shell, but I probably wouldn't have spoken to her if it wasn't for a mutual conversation.
Your paths wouldn't cross.
Yeah, and we genuinely talk every single day. Absolutely obsessed with her as a human being, but I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for Poshmark.
And I think our event who just said now he met one of his best friends at Posh. The chap with our event is Ross, or Roscoe as we call him. And once again, not just through Posh as well, but we speak to him we speak to him at least once a week. He's in all the chats. Like he's a massive part of the Instagram and Poshmark community. And I've never met him ever before the summit.
Here we go. Everyone's agreeing. You need that tip jar. So
should I just walk around
you guys
on my neck?
Maybe we'll just have jars at the summit.
Just sit in the corner, just shake the little jar and beg for the money. But no, jokes aside, I think a buy me a coffee link. It's not like you're asking someone to send you £5 via PayPal. But for the people who do appreciate you, because there's so many people, including myself and people who said it tonight, who appreciate the time that you guys dedicate to other people. You don't have to. You can ignore the message and list another item or, whatever you want to do. But you guys always take the time. And as I say, you guys have been great to me, not just for that one thing, but beforehand, when I was going through a bit of a crap time, you guys were one of the early people. I hadn't spoke to you really before. And you sent me the loveliest voice note. And it really cheered me up. And it really made me feel like, do you know what? They're spot on them too.
James, don't tell people we're nice. They'll blow our cover.
No, please. I know, but what I will say, and I spoke to you in person, and what you see is what you get with you two. And I said that at the start, and I stand by it. You're two quality people, and I know, like we've spoke about it before, and some people feel like, all they do is say all this stuff they know about clothing. Well, guess what? They do. They do know so much about clothing, and it's a joy to have people like that.
It's really hard. It's really hard to. It's really hard to like big yourself up and not big yourself up, because a lot of people say, they're such know-it-alls. Because they know it's okay to know.
But it's good. Yeah.
It's okay to actually have knowledge on something. It's not a bad thing to have knowledge on something that you've spent your whole life learning and then give it away for free.
And I also think, like you just said, we try and do our very best to help anyone we can out, like with it. If we were just those people like, we know loads, you know nothing, like we're going to help you, like we're not going to help you. And that I get, call us what you want to call us, but we're trying to push it at least,
Anyway, I was going to say, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be able to connect with you guys and know that if I do have something I need help with, there's only two people I want to come to. to ask for that advice, because, you know, I trust you guys, I trust your knowledge. And the best thing about it is as well, as I said, you don't just say fake, because you could easily just say fake.
That would be the easiest thing to do.
Easiest thing, real. You just write real, fake, real, fake.
Yep.
But as I said, even with other people, I know it's not just linked at me, but even other people, when I've been in a field with them and they come up to me and say, "None of them luxury pickers," I'm like, yeah, they're spot on. They're so nice. And I was like, I know they are. And they go, listen to this voice note. And they're like, you found this amazing bag. It's worth X amount. This is what I would list it for. But if you want to sell it, you know, you go into so much detail. It's not just real, fake, list it for this price and move on. And you could do that because people are happy. If it's real and you say it's probably worth £200, that's all you need to do. But you go that one step ahead. So definitely set up that buy me a coffee link. Let people start giving something a little bit back for your time, if nothing else as well. Right, we've been going nearly 2.5 hours, so I have one more question for you guys.
One more question.
2 more questions, if I may.
2 more questions.
Who inspires you? As in, when you listen to, we talked earlier about motivational things, and like I mentioned him earlier, Eddie Hearn. I love the guy, but I watch things like you mentioned, Gary V, Diary of a CEO. I love listening to that stuff, especially now he's doing the behind the scenes kind of thing and watching how he runs his life. But who do you guys listen to and who inspires you? Like when you're feeling like, you know, you need a bit of motivation yourself, who do you turn to?
I think it's a really interesting one. We listen to a lot of people in terms of Austin constantly is listening to the podcast. I swear to Lord, he's always.
The only time I have earbuds in is now.
And we've always watched Gary V. And I sometimes in the car, like I'm really sad. I really like Rocky Balboa, Sylvester Stallone. So there's like in the new film, there's a bit where it's not about how many times you get knocked down.
Yeah,
I know. Austin, if we need some tough love,
we listen to that. Like we take that to each other. And any time I will say that we have a feeling like you say, maybe one of us is feeling a bit like, oh, again, or this just happened, and you know, we're lucky enough that we have each other, to be fair. But we'll always and we'll just look at each other and it's like, it's that Rocky time. And
I think it's different because we have each other. I know it sounds really sad, but we've always had each other. Like when we decided to restart a career, like Austin did something completely different in his younger days. That he did something completely different. So when I met him at Mulberry, he was restarting his whole career. I was just starting my career because, you know, I'm the younger of the duo. And I think because we've always had each other and had no one else, in terms of Austin doesn't live near his family, and my parents had never even watched a YouTube video we done. It's not like that. We don't have that sort of like backbone. Does that make sense? So it's always just been us. If we've got to do something stupid, then we have to decide between ourselves.
For good or bad.
So I think if you ever need anyone to like big you up, we have each other.
And you know what, I will say on that, a lot of people have said, like you guys were talking, yourself and Luke were talking on a podcast recently, or live recently I should say, about, you know, kind of couples and how you could integrate your partner, etc. Yeah. And you know, the weird thing is, like we do it like we're breathing. It's just like what we've always done, right? So it's easy for us. But I think where people say, oh, that must be so hard, or I don't know if I could do that. By the same token, we also reap the benefits, because there's nothing. If you need to kick up the arse, there's no arse kicking you can get than from your partner. Like,
absolutely.
If you're moaning, or if things are bad, or you need to do this, or you should do that, like you can take it from a lot of different people, and of course you can eventually tend to go and do whatever. But your partner, like, deal with it. That's what it is. Like, you don't like it.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, like, it's the worst thing in the world, but it's the best thing too, because you have no, like I said, you can walk away from a job, you can tell your boss to go and do one, you can curse them out, you can say, I'm leaving, it's done. Yeah. How are you going to walk out? What are you going to do? Because you had a bad day on eBay, you're going to walk out the door. Get over yourself. Move on. Let's get it on. And that's how we speak to each other. And sometimes it's a bit like, oh, okay, yeah, fair play. How we
speak on a podcast or how we speak on a YouTube video is constant. I messaged you before. I said we've been having an open debate, a continuous debate for 2 days about branding. And I'm not even joking. We have been shouting at each other for 2 days. About branding.
But you're passionate about it. It's your passion, isn't it?
It's constant. It's constant. And I think it's always just been us. Us as when I say me, I always mean us. It's like we're a singular person. A lot of people always say, oh, like if you want a posh show or something, they say, oh, thanks, Bethany. I'm like, it's always us. Like I get openly offended when people don't refer to us as a singular unit.
Yeah, and I think listen, like obviously I don't do a lot of Instagram personally, but like, you know, even if I get someone message me directly for authentication, so which is cool. Don't do it. It annoys me, but it's cool. I hit luxury pickers, you know, because sometimes I don't read them. That's the honest truth of it. And I don't want to miss it. But by the same token, sometimes if it's just someone will name me or just name Bethany, each of us don't get annoyed. But it's more the other person is like, well, it's both of us technically, because usually, like, you've had voice notes and Bethany will speak or I'll speak or vice versa, and one of us shouting in the background.
Your voice notes are the best. It's like your podcast. But it's what I'm saying about you guys. What you see is who you are, because your podcasts are the same as the voice notes. So I'll start hearing you speak, Austin, and then suddenly I hear Bethany say something in the background, and Bethany's then speaking on the next one, and you're saying, and it's great because you are the pair. And Michelle's saying there, she's been 1,000 times more productive since her husband joined as well. And it's quite funny because me and Luke were having a conversation, because we both have the same aspirations as where you guys are, to bring the partners into the business and to make it work like that. And funnily enough, we were speaking about that on the Monday, it might have been. And I think Michelle brought a partner on the Wednesday, but we didn't know that was happening. And it was really weird. She was like, I was in the chat, but I didn't want to get involved in case you guys started going, it's the worst decision ever. Well, we're all for it. You know, we're all for doing it. For me, I've just got to balance how it would work. And I think space-wise for me, mentally, I love my own space. So I like being down here and doing what I need to do. We both couldn't fit in here and work without getting in each other's way as well. So I think you need the space to be able to do it as well. The final bit I've got for you guys, what's the one best bit of advice you can give me as a noob when it comes to clothing? Because reselling, I feel I know how to do reselling. Clothing, I'm still very much learning, and I'm going to be constantly evolving, constantly learning. I mean, I picked up a brand from the charity shop the other day, and I picked it up on a whim because it felt good. And I posted it on my Instagram, and you were the second person to come back to me. You were slow. Second person to come back to me and say, amazing brand, great find. And already that's stuck in my head now, the brand. I'm not going to say it here. Go onto my Instagram if you want to see it. But what advice would you guys give me as a new clothing reseller to really make it a successful business?
Austin's favorite saying in the world is get comfortable being uncomfortable. Invest in your knowledge. So I know James, you can take it. I know that you like instinctively pick up like North Face, Nike, all these great brands, right?
Under Armour, all the known brands.
Which we know have got a great sell-through rate. They're going to sell, you price them right, they're gone, right? Men need clothes and they like certain brands, etc. Invest in your knowledge, right? Even if my favorite thing to do, because I'm really sad, is when we go somewhere exciting, I will find the most hip happening department store, and I will spend time just walking around and making notes of brands, right? Because you'll have your classic ones that everyone knows and your big boys and etc. But department stores spend their whole lives finding the newest of the new, the coolest of the cool. They go to trade shows, they go to events, they go to all these markets, buyers markets that we don't see as consumers. So if you're going to get the first hint of like a really like new to market brand that will automatically blow up because it's sitting next to Ganni or it's sitting next to, I don't know, whatever, another brand that's really popular, Lululemon, say example, then that brand's a brand to like note in your notebook. One lady used to do, and I always thought about bringing them out, she used to get address books. And she used to sit, and if she saw a new brand, she'd put it by the letter it began with. So like I don't know, Adidas, she'd just put it in her A section. So that when she was out and about, she could check her little address book and see where it was in the thing. I'm not saying that I know like people, I'm like a weird walking sponge. And I know that you can't necessarily walk into a shop and be like, oh, I'm going to remember that brand. Because I know like for a lot of people, like it's just information overload. But if you surround yourself with things like that, so you go to a department store and you look around, then you go on social media and you're like, oh wait, Kylie Jenner's wearing that brand I just saw in Harvey Nichols. It's being and able to see the things in real life. Like a lot of people when asking for authentications, I actually say to them, have you ever been to Balenciaga and picked up a shoe? Because most people will tell me before they ask for an authentication, it's a really good fake if it's not. And I'm looking at it thinking, that looks
it's a terrible fake.
Like it was like found in a dumpster of a fake shop because it went wrong. Like if you've never experienced these things, and I understand we're very lucky to have done that, but I worked very hard to be able to experience things like going shopping and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is immerse yourself.
You don't have to always have to purchase these things, and let's not get it twisted.
Yeah.
You spend an hour in flannels, you'll be aware of maybe 10 brands you weren't, just because flannels is very generic across the board. It's a very generic high street almost now for luxury, right? But pieces, qualities, like the whole thing, it's very easy once you've had a real one in your hand. It's very, very hard to unforget how that feels.
But it's also like niche brands are normally worth the most because you see them the least. But they're also brands that people are buying, and you're likely to see. Like people always like to us, you don't see this stuff at car boot sales. We're going at the weekend. We're going to Essex. We're going to Dirty Dunton, and I guarantee you, I will find something because it is. Everyone buys it, and everyone values things at different values, whether it's throwing it in a boot sale pile or putting it on eBay. Everyone has value in their brain to what they paid for it. If it comes to menswear, is go to a popular retailer site like Mr. Porter, which is the men's version of Net-a-Porter, and just get the brand list up and look at it, and just look at it, because that is the closest you'll get on the internet to a really good department store that are really like on point with men's brands. And I guarantee you'll just look at the list and be like, I didn't even know so many brands existed. And then once it's in your head, I truly believe that in the power of like
manifestation.
Yeah, I believe in like once you see it, it's like when you said once, when you go to your unit and you touch something, it's going to sell the next day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the same thing. Once you see it and it registers in your brain is more likely to register it when you're out in the field. Well, if you've never heard of it before and it just looks like a nice label and you pick it up and you know, it looks like a nice label, you're not going to think anything of it. But if that little bit of your brain says, oh, I recognize that, for 50p, try it.
The other thing is, like you said, funny enough about the shirt you did, like you could tell it was something, right? Maybe a year ago, maybe you would have, I don't know, but I'm asking, maybe a year ago you wouldn't have necessarily, maybe it was heavy, but it could have just been an old piece of vintage heavy workwear, right? You didn't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't even looked at clothes a year ago. Yeah, right. As an FXL, I never touched clothes, but yeah.
So what I'm saying is, but you realise there was some quality in what you felt now in comparison to maybe some other stuff you pick up, right? So what I'm saying is, in a boot sale, even more so, most of the time it's in a pile or it's in a bundle or it's raggedy or it's chucked on a hanger, it's half hanging off. So it's you're not looking like you're looking in Selfridges or you're looking in Harrods, right? It doesn't look that way. However, if you can instantly, like from a stitch or from a label or from a shape or a cut or how it looks or the fabric, if you can take those things on board and understand that quality already, we pick up things nowadays, right? And it might even be like a high-end high street brand or high street brand. I'm like, I've said it before about Zara. Sometimes I defy anyone. Zara's high end. I'm talking sometimes it's like 50, 60, 70 pounds for a blank t-shirt. It will be comparable to some of the most high-end pieces you'll find, right? Kind of luxury, because the manufacturing and where they're getting it done and where the fabrics they use are high-end. It's not always as certain, but I promise you definitely be able to tell from a cheap Zara and an expensive Zara. So if you're halfway there, you at least know now, okay, well, that's going to be some money. I can feel the difference. And the only way, like Bethany said, it's such a great point. The only way you really, truly understand that is how can you, like Bethany said, I think it's a great point. How can you say these are a good fake if you've never seen an authentic one?
Yeah, how can you compare? But the thing with the brands, and I'll say it on here because it's on my Instagram, but Pendleton was the brand. Yeah. And I had heard that in my ears from YouTube videos, from being in a group, I'd heard the brand mentioned, and I spoke to Simon about this morning. I'd heard it mentioned so many times, and the moment I saw made in USA and I knew it was thick, I thought, do you know what? I'm not even going to look this up because the charity shop was about to close. So I grabbed it quick, £6. And I thought, even if I make a mistake, and actually what I've been hearing is Pendleton doesn't sell, don't buy it. At least I'll never make the mistake again. But in the same breath, like you're saying there, I now know that's a brand I'll be picking up every time.
It's amazing.
So it's stuck. And that's the thing, I think, what you're saying there about knowledge, and I'm really trying to work on my brand knowledge. So I appreciate the Mr. Porter site as well for me to go through the brand list, because you're right. At the moment, I'm comfortable picking up Nike, Under Armour, North Face, the stuff everyone knows. I want to go into that field And then once someone says to me, what have you got? And I say, oh, I've got this. And they said, oh, I've never heard of that brand before. That's where I want to get to.
I was going to say as well, Bethany said, I say it multiple times, probably every day, and it bores Bethany, but get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because the thing is, right, you just said, no, I'm comfortable with picking Nike up. So is everyone. That's the problem. And that's why there's probably 50,000 T-shirts or 16,000 hoodies, right? I'm not saying that doesn't sell. It's not a great sell for it. I'm not saying people don't sell it. I'm saying if you were to have that plus an arsenal of random brands, for example, in menswear or ladies' wear that no one really knows about, only you, because you've been on a random Stockholm custom clothing site and you've found 3 brands no one's ever heard of, I promise you, there's no one in the world can tell me with more knowledge you wouldn't have a better chance of picking something up. And when people say to us all the time, I'll never find anything like that in on a boot sale. We made careers on it. I promise you will. If you know what to look for, I promise you will.
I also, you shouldn't do it. It's bad. You hear it here first, but you should do it, right? It's do the hard judge. You do boot sales. I love a boot sale.
Yeah.
Look at the people selling, right? They're not necessarily selling their own stuff, which is fine, and you should look at every store anyway. So that's not the point getting to. But if they've got a brand new Range Rover, which is like £60,000 bottom, like, you know, with all the rubbish inside, then they're going to spend money on clothes. Because if they've got disposable income to spend money on a really nice car, then you can look at what they're wearing. He might not have a nice pair of jeans on. I guarantee there are men, right? Men especially, I'm judging all you boy folk, that will spend money on a certain thing. So some men really like a really expensive pair of jeans. Some men like a spend on trainers. Some men spend on like an outerwear coat or something. But they will spend on something because they don't wear hardly anything.
Or fragrance, for example.
Or fragrance or whatever. It's normally a package deal. And it also then that comes around to homeware, because normally people that take pride in their appearance will take pride in their home. And although we shouldn't judge, and in retail, that's what happens every single day. When that nice lady said that when she walks in a charity shop, they think she's a reseller, because you automatically judge your customer, so you know how to cross-sell, upsell, and sell everything but the kitchen sink to them. That's how retail works. And although we don't like the idea of judging people,
the majority of the time, it's you actually, especially in sales. We're not talking about in life. I'm talking about in sales now. Yeah. And obviously, buy on the flip side of that.
It works the same. You work out what, like, if a man is wearing straight gym clothes, you're probably going to get a good source of gym clothes from him, like, because that's obviously what he's into wearing on a daily thing. And then you also find that, like, you might get like a biker type who's literally selling car parts, and it happens. It actually happens if you watch people. How
many dudes you ever seen selling old Harley t-shirts, and he's tatted up, he's got a leather vest on. You may not have a bad car. You may have been driven in bike. Maybe you said he's got a normal car, but you know those guys are there, and it's because he has such a love for that stuff.
Yeah,
it's like it's similar to what, you know.
It's similar to what you're saying now, because when I now see golf clubs at the car boot sale, I go straight to the clothing rail straight away, thinking to myself, he plays golf. There's probably going to be some golf. Polo.
Even golf. Yeah, golf club. That's exactly it.
So it's kind of, you're right.
And in your mind, because you've come from everything selling, you naturally see the everything, and then you can make your clothing assumptions.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work out. You move it on. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, it's true.
Right, I've got 4 minutes, so I need to go off to the other call. But before I leave,
we'll start.
Apart from saying thank you, because you guys have been amazing. You've given me nearly 2.5 hours of your Thursday evening, so I'm grateful. Where can people come and find you guys? Let's plug your show. Let's plug everything. Yeah. What's the address? Yeah, what's the address for authentication? Where can people find you?
At Luxury Pickers on everything. Everything. All I would say is
come and join a live show on Poshmark.
Come and try Posh.
When's the live show on Poshmark? Let's plug
every Saturday 8 p.m. apart from this Saturday, because we're in a pub in Essex. Don't tell anyone.
They're getting
drunk. You know what? Sorry guys, we're gonna have a drink. I'm afraid that's just how life is sometimes.
But anyway,
Georgie's going as well. We'll see Georgie there.
There you go. See. But Instagram, we're most active on Instagram at the Luxury Pickers, if anyone's interested. We also have a podcast called The Hard Sell. We also do YouTube called at The Hard Sell. We do a live show at 8 p.m. on Monday on Instagram called Tag Talk, and we're generally everywhere.
She's a machine.
I was going to say Tag Talk's another good one. That's 8 o'clock on Mondays, isn't it, on Instagram Live?
Yeah, we started it to talk about basic
great.
labels and so on, but to be honest with you, we will keep doing that. But if anyone's got any like proper questions for us as regards specific stuff, you can drop that in Tag Talk on a Monday night.
Yes.
On Instagram.
Amazing. Everyone is just saying thank you, and
thank you everyone for being here. Like,
so
otherwise, it's just us talking to James, and who no one wants to do that.
We don't want to do that. We had enough chat last week, but Austin and Bethany, the luxury pickers, thank you so much, and thanks to the side chat. And I'll be back again next Thursday. I might be on my own, or I might have a guest. Who knows? We'll see what we can plan during the week. But thank you all, and if you're going Saturday, buy luxury pickers a drink, please, because they deserve it for all the help they give to this community.
I'm really thirsty. I can feel it.
Absolutely, they like their booze like we all do. So thanks again, guys, and we'll see you soon.
James.